Some riders sign factory deals straight out of the amateurs, and others, they spend years grinding it out as privateers, earning respect the hard way. No one knows that journey better than Alex Martin. Going pro in 2008, Alex carved out a career the old school way by showing up, putting in the work, making the most of every opportunity, and proving that he belonged. He built his program around fitness, wanting to be the gnarliest dude on the gate, knowing he could push to the very end of every single moto. That mindset didn't just earn him factory opportunities, it laid the groundwork for everything that came next. Today, through Troll Training, Alex shares the experience, helping riders around the world become fitter, faster, and safer, giving them the tools to become the most dialed in riders they can be so they're ready when it counts. Gypsy Gang, welcome Alex Martin to the podcast. In 2022, Eli Tomac made the switch to Yamaha and found instant success on their class-leading YZ450F. Eli Tomac had 3 reasons for making the switch. He wanted power, and the Yamaha has the strongest and most tunable motor in the class. He wanted KYB suspension, and the YZ450F comes stock with his preferred KYB system. And finally, he wanted a cable clutch. Yamaha took the championship-winning YZ450F and made it even better. More powerful, lighter, slimmer, with enhanced overall stability and more agility than ever before. The 2025 YZ450F is available now in both Yamaha Blue, or to really look like Eli Tomac, it's also available in the Monster Energy Edition. The pinnacle of off-road 4-stroke performance wrapped in iconic Yamaha racing livery. Head to YamahaMotorsports.com or into your local dealer now.
I met a Gypsy.
Big Al, we're doing it.
Are we starting?
This is how it starts, bro.
Okay.
Just as easy as that.
Welcome to Cali, bro.
I know. Yeah, you got full Cali, broed. You sat on the 405, did the Uber from LAX.
So yeah, I left Minneapolis this morning. It was 45 and raining.
No.
Yeah. It's beautiful weather. It's actually been really cold. This week has been really cold in Minnesota. Last week it was like 90s, super hot.
Yeah.
So up and down.
Have you always lived there? Like, did you ever move away?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I've spent 5 years in Claremont, Florida with the TLD. Like, we kind of went into Baker's factory right when the TLD side of it went up. So we were, I spent 5 years in Claremont.
So you did the Baker's factory thing? Yeah,
full on. Two years there. Yeah, both of my years on TLD were there.
Right. How was that, living on the program?
It was interesting. It was good. I learned a lot. I'm glad I went through it for sure. I think that we could probably get into it later, but I think that's a large part of why Troll Training started. Yeah, is after going through that program. But that whole TLD KTM program, it was really just an awesome part of my career. You know. What
age were you when you got the shot on that team?
So 2016, I was on Star Yamaha.
Yeah.
And I actually I could have done another 2-year deal with Star, but I chose to go to TLD KTM. And I did a 2-year deal with them.
Why is that?
That was at the time, kind of, if you remember, like, my brother had a lot of drama going on. He was pitting out in the back of the semi that summer, like pitting out back, and it was just, it was a weird dynamic that summer for sure. And honestly, looking back, that's probably one of the bigger regrets of my career is leaving Star. You know? But I mean, hindsight's 2020. I did have success and got a lot of podiums and second the championship on the TLD bike, but that kind of haunts me a little bit. Like, how good could I have been with another 2 years on Star? Yeah. But yeah, there's just a lot of drama that summer. We had the DNFs at High Point. Yeah. I had the red plate after coming into Colorado, and then I went 8-2, had a crash, and then. Sorry, someone's calling me.
That's all right.
So at Thunder Valley, I had the red plate and went 8-2, and then still second in the championships, like right in the points hunt, going into High Point, and I was leading that whole first moto. My bike started going. I don't know if you remember that, like smoking and everything.
Yeah.
And then in the second moto, I got second. So I would have went 2-2 on the day and got the overall there. But the DNF, and then Jeremy had the exact same bike situation happen in the second moto. So it was kind of like...
That's right, dude.
I was kind of like, yeah, you know...
That would have got you so many points had you not had that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not to mention a nice payday.
Yeah, that's true, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking to someone about Jeremy Racing Star again. He just announced that he's doing the season this year, which came out of left field in a huge way.
Dude, you ain't kidding.
And then so someone said to me, they're like, "Oh, I can't believe it with all the drama that happened." But I wasn't across any of that. Like I was back in Australia doing my thing back then. I think I don't know that I was that in the scene to even know what that drama was. Yeah,
I think with it's not just my brother. I think a lot of us are guilty of this. Like the grass is always greener on the other side. You know, I mean that's why I switched over to TLD. I thought the grass was greener, and it's not always the case. And I think for my brother, he's went through that a couple times now. But really, like after the club deal went down, like I mean, he was not in a good spot mentally. Like he couldn't even drive down the road without getting nausea. He'd have to pull over and like breathe, close his eyes. Like literally couldn't drive down the road.
What was that from?
Because he had the concussion in Detroit, where he was knocked out for a little bit in the heat race, and then he took some time off. He actually came back and raced a few Supercrosses. And then he was on outdoors like maybe a month later, and he crashed again. He was out for 6 minutes. And after that one, that's when he came back to Minnesota, basically packed his bags up from club, came back, and like he was not well for like 2 months after that. So that was like summer off, and I kind of thought this summer he was just going to do one last Millville National. He bought a Kawasaki 450 from a local dealership. He wasn't riding. He was your VIP host at Star Yamaha.
Yeah.
And it was like he was pretty much done. Yeah, and then this deal came a call on Star, and we were both like, what? Yeah, so big surprise.
Crazy. How do you think he's going to do?
I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I really want him to just be healthy.
And just enjoy the experience.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like, Jeremy, I've had this talk with him. I'm like, listen, you have to, at the end of the day, like I retired in 2022. I made it through a whole 450 season, which is what I wanted to do. Like, let's be honest, I'm a career 250 guy, but I wanted to give the 450 one shot, and I didn't win any titles. I wish I would have won more races. I threw away wins and podiums. But at the end of the day, I retired I was content with what I accomplished in the sport.
Yeah.
And I think for anybody, including my brother, like you have to be content with what you've done. You know, like I mean, look at Ryan Dungey. He came back. You know, like he was still wanting to do more, and like who's won more than that guy? You know.
Three people.
Yeah, exactly.
In the whole sport.
And so, yeah, I think my brother's attitude's pretty good. Like he's like, oh yeah, Big Al, I've been having a glass of wine, and you know, I just like whatever happens, happens, and I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. You want, like, people deserve to go out like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially someone that's added so much to the sport and been such a great champion. Like, it's definitely, it's sad sometimes in sport when really good guys are not, like, okay, good guys on the motorcycle, but good guys off the motorcycle and guys that have been amazing for the sport. You really want to see them get their flowers and you know, go out in like a way that they can feel good about and not have the regrets, you know?
Yeah, and I think part of it is like you look at like Ricky and maybe not Stu, but like Ricky Villapoto. There's a lot of guys that we all looked up to growing up that just like went out on top.
Just peaked.
And that's just not the reality for 99% of us. You know, those are the outliers. You know, it's really, really hard to be successful for like 1 year at a professional level, let alone 10. You know, and my brother, yeah, he had a good run. I had a good run. And at the end of the day, like, you just have to be content with what you've accomplished. And it's tough because you spend 30 years of your life or more. Like, this is all you do. You eat, breathe, and sleep moto. And then when it's done, you got to, like, basically acquire a new skill set.
Yeah.
You know, you have to learn a new trade, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Dino was in here yesterday or the day before. And, I mean, he's wrestling with that right now. He's like, dude, like, this is going to be hard. And he's had some dark days when even he thought he was done, and he's managed to keep this cool part-time schedule, Supercross only schedule going. And then the HRC thing was crazy. But he's like, dude, I mean, even with all this, I still am looking down at the possibility of retirement. And then, like, what am I going to do? You know? And it's like, you either A, get a whole new skill set, or B, lean into the skill set that you already have. And then there's some kind of challenges around, just being a worker bee in the industry and not being the star rider. And there's a whole lot that you have to process as an athlete.
Oh, for sure. And that's why, looking back on it now, I'm super grateful that, my coach, John Wessling, and I started troll training. And
Yeah,
then
you
also,
crushed it.
That was a really good transition for me because we actually started it 2 years before I retired. And that just kind of started taking off. And so that was really good because it kept me still involved in communicating with the athletes. But then because it was mainly online, I didn't have to go to the race, which, to be honest, I don't miss the travel at all. I see the trainers that are still going to 30 rounds a year or whatever, and they're away from their families and they're on a plane, and I just didn't want to do that, So I'm really grateful that I can be at home and just call up my guys or text them and be like, hey, how you doing? How'd it go? I appreciate that. And then also with Spring Creek too, now I have that promoter role as well as a coach and former athlete. So there's a lot of hats that I feel like I'm wearing, but I like being home.
Yeah, and you've managed to stay very busy, and I'm sure that, you find new challenges and new goals and new ways to motivate yourself that it's in the same vein, I think, as what you did as a racer, but the focus has just shifted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's a learning process. I feel like, and we'll get into this later, but I feel like I had 3 months after I retired, my wife and I, we went on a honeymoon because I never got to, when I got married, my TLD year, my trainer at the time, Tyler Rattray, was just like, you can't go on a honeymoon, you got to go into boot camp. So we went straight into boot camp from the wedding, because that's just the way it was. So we went on a honeymoon to Switzerland, checked out the Swiss Alps, and then I had 3 months where I was just I'm retired. What am I going to do next? And that's when I ended up signing up for a marathon because I needed a goal, or I needed something to chase. And I genuinely feel like when you have a goal or a race that you're signed up for, it makes you a better person. It makes you more accountable.
1,000,000%. I say it all the time. Accountability. Mm-hmm. People do the best, or at least, people do the best with accountability for sure. Right. Mm-hmm. But then there's some people that avoid accountability. My version of this right now would be a jiu-jitsu tournament. Mm-hmm. So I've competed for years where there was some years where I would compete every single time that there was a tournament to compete in. And I just got locked in. I was razor sharp. I was training like an animal. Kind of almost took over my life in a way. But at the same time, that was peak conditioning and peak, mentally I was so in, and my diet was on point because I had to make weight over and over. And then it's right now I'm kind of in the place where this year's been amazing for training, super consistent, but I'm still a hobbyist and there's no competitions on the horizon. And then when I think about it, I'm I've got this and I got this I got to do. And that lack of accountability lets you skip workouts. It lets you skip training. It lets you not be as on point with your diet. So it's there's two things. It's having the motivation to actually pull the trigger and sign up for a thing, and then to be accountable through that whole process,
Yeah. And I see that a lot with the athletes we have on troll training of they appreciate the accountability. We use Training Peaks app, and literally if they don't do a workout, it's red. If they do it, it's green. And people like seeing a week of green. It's something as simple as that. I think just having someone watching you too, it makes a big difference versus if you're just, solo out there. So, but yeah, no, it makes a big difference because in moto, it's like I said, we eat, breathe, and sleep it. So it's consuming you all week long. You're thinking about how you could be faster, how can you set up the bike, especially when I was on JGR, I was one of the only Suzuki guys more or less in the world at that time because they didn't have a lot going on with Suzuki. And so you're constantly thinking, how can you make the chassis better, suspension better, engine better? And it was just, for me, it was 2 years of that on JGR. And when I stopped racing, it was just you don't have to worry about how you can make the chassis better or anything, but it just consumes you.
And did you find your mind just wandering to places that it really never wandered when you were in your career?
Well, it's funny because literally when I retired, I feel like I just went headfirst into troll training, and like I got so much done in that first like winter. Really, back home Minnesota, like we got snow everywhere. It's cold, and I was just like on the computer, just designing workouts or learn our website, like just learn the ins and outs of running a business more or less. And I just feel like I got so much done because I took all that time and energy from travel and racing and training and bike setup and just threw it into troll training. And so it kind of really accelerated the company. I mean, we blew up a lot in that first year.
It's crazy, the application of a mind like yours and a body like yours. You know, you've spent your entire life very hyper fixated on goals and outcomes, and then using yourself to get there, whether it's like your own mind power or your own physical power. And then when you can apply that to a different if you have a very clear direction, like, and you'd hear people say all the time that, you know, if you can make it as to any level as a motocross racer, if you apply that same level of dedication to the next thing, whether it's business, whether it's whatever, like, you are going to succeed.
Yeah, I think it for sure. It's just, you only have so much time in a day, right? And it's how you utilize that time in a day. And, you know, like when you're racing, that's all you're thinking about, right? But like, I think in order to turn the next chapter, what I realized is like, okay, you have to, if you're done racing, then you have to turn the chapter and focus on the next thing in life. And for me, like when you put all your eggs in that one basket, you can get a lot done, you know, but it's hard to juggle a little bit of this and a little bit of that for sure. Like I kind of see that with my buddy Phil, like, you know, we've 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and, you know, like you have to just like make the transition and just go head first into the next thing in life.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, it's you're just kind of prolonging the inevitable.
Yeah. Do you think that it's easy once you've had a level of success in something to achieve a level of success in something else? Like, do you think that there's a certain blueprint that you can follow?
That's a good question. Dude, honestly, I think so. I think the mental stress, I think about this, the resilience. Like, for example, I go back to like 2016 Dis Nations when I raced for Team USA. I feel like the amount of pressure I had in that event, right? Because like everybody at Team USA, you're supposed to win. Second place is not an option. I feel like when I finished that race, the rest of my career, I had like this pressure. I could handle pressure differently. You know, and I think that just like learning to work with people and like the suspension guys, engine guys, like communicating with the team, and then the training, having the discipline with training, I think that really does apply. Like I think being a professional athlete does apply to other parts of life for sure.
Yeah, and I think that, like success leaves clues, right? And I think you can see it in, you know, whether it's sports or whether it's in business. Like a lot of people have a very similar story in terms of what the things that they did to get where they got. And it's almost like once you've done it once, it becomes a lot easier to just like kind of plug and play. Like all of the other variables are different, but at the very base level, it's the same thing.
For sure. I think if at a fundamental level, like what you're saying, there's not a big difference between a successful CEO and a successful professional athlete. They're doing the basics or the fundamentals really well, you know, and I think that can be applied to anything, whether it's business or sports or whatever.
Yeah, and I think it's very important. Like if I look at my own life, I don't think I was ever that good at anything to the level that gave me that understanding until a little bit later in life. But I feel like once I figured it out, it almost is like a light bulb switch that kind of goes off in your brain. And I feel like I've been able to find a level of success at multiple things in my own way, more than I ever did, say, up until like my late 20s. And I think that it's something I'm going to think about a lot going forward with kids, and that is like to help them understand that it's kind of a formula. There's a fundamental formula underneath it all, and whether it's gymnastics or like whatever it is, schoolwork, anything, that once you get that first win, in a sense, where you've like really figured out the formula, I feel like that is a thing that can really set a person up for the rest of their life.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and I mean, I by no means have figured it out. You know, I think that.
But you have.
I mean, sure.
You've got to the highest level of a thing, and now you can then use that in other things that you're doing. I think you're literally the perfect example of it. Like, you figured out the career, and you came from literally nothing, you know, like as a guy that started from the bottom. Like, you had to like claw your way onto factory level teams and equipment, and then you reach the highest level, and then now you're also being very successful in the very next thing that you aimed your arrow at.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You're literally the guy we're talking about, you know?
Yeah, no, it's tough because, like, yeah, a lot of people don't, maybe if you're newer to the sport, like, you just see maybe the end of my career, or, like, even some people are like, oh, your 450 years sucked or whatever, but it's like, God, there was 7 years of grinding, privateer, like, kind of like
that's the stuff I remember the most.
Yeah, like the Jerry Robbins stuff we were talking about, like, you're grinding, living in a shop in Pennsylvania, you know, wondering if the 1110 mods truck is going to get there on time, and a lot of times we missed tech on Friday, you know,
Yeah.
like, there was just a lot of stuff, like I would, living in the shop, you know, on an air mattress and taking showers with a garden hose, and just going down to the Walmart to buy the cheapest food we could buy, you know. I mean, we definitely weren't making much money. I wasn't doing it for the money at that point in time. It was just because I love the sport and I love riding dirt bikes, you know. So, I mean, there's, and I think it's with anything. I think there's more failing than there is winning. But then I think if you just learn as you go, you know, it's amazing. Like, I think just day in and day out, being consistent with your work ethic and being switched on, trying to be a sponge and trying to learn around you.
Yeah.
It's because I remember, like, in my early 20s, just being like, God, what else could I do? Like, I'm a 10-10 guy. Like, how can I get a factory ride? Like, what is it going to take? And I was just kind of diligent, just kind of kept plugging away. And, you know, in 2016, got the breakout ride with Star, and should have had the red plate that summer. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and you're the perfect example of compound interest, and not compound interest in terms of money, but compound interest in terms of effort. And it's like, you see the compound interest curve that just, it ramps up, it hits that point, but it's so dead for so long. And, you know, you just show up, and there's a compounding of effort that takes place. And at some point, that effort does get rewarded, but so many people just don't see out the end of the curve.
Yeah, it's funny because I think I've talked about this with like Phil, and I think there's a certain level of delusion.
Yeah, dude.
That has to happen.
For sure.
Like, to like be living in a shop or in South Carolina, training at a club or like whatever, in a cabin, you know, not making any money for like years and years. Like, you're kind of somewhat delusional to think that that's gonna like pay off, you know. But it's like, I'm glad I did it, for sure. I would do it again, to see where I'm at now, you know, and what I accomplished in my career. Like, obviously, you know, you have regrets because I wish I would have won more. I wish I would have stayed on this team, won more races, more podiums or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, I look back at it, it's pretty cool. But for sure, like, sticking it in day and day out when it was, you know, not looking so good, you know, so.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. And you're right. Like, there's a point, I think, in everyone's journey or life where no one gets it. You know, people just don't. They're looking at you like, dude, just the amount of times I've been told to get a job in my life is like, I've lost count, you know. And it's people that are close to you, it's people that, you know, even are supporters of you, and they're looking at the vision more objectively than you are. But you're looking at something that other people can't see.
Yeah.
There's something there. There's like a flame that just that stays lit. And, you know, if that goes out, then none of it happens.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and how long can you keep that flame going, right? Is the question. So, I mean, I think it goes down to passion. You have to be passionate about it, because, you know, why else would you stick it out at something if you're not passionate about it?
And I think that there has to be. Thank you very much, dear.
Thank you.
I think that there has to be, and I'm thinking about if someone's listening to this and they're like in this situation, like, what would be useful advice? And I feel like you can be delusional about what you think you can achieve if you're objectively putting in the work.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you can't just be not. And that's the thing, is like, I was working hard, and I was also
Exactly.
like knocking on the door of top 5, top 10 as a privateer. You know, I wasn't like not making night shows or not making the top 40. You know, like, I was there. Partly it was like when I turned pro was the recession of 2009, right? the housing collapse and stuff. So it wasn't a good time for the industry. So maybe I would have had more support coming in. But then I also think too, because how many successful amateurs have we seen that have come in and they make it like 1 or 2 years and they pull the plug, right?
Yeah.
They can't handle the adversity. Whereas I was able to kind of come in under the spotlight, hone my skills, refine my craft.
Without the pressure.
Yeah. Learn the priorities of what makes you a good racer, right? Like I remember as on 1110 mods, like I had a really good bike, but I'm like, I know it's not a factory bike, okay? And if I'm a 8.8 guy, like what's going to make me a 4.4 podium guy? And for me, it was all about fitness. Like I knew that the fitter I could be, the harder I could ride for longer, and hopefully that was going to pay off, and ultimately I think I gambled in the right way, with the fitness side of it for sure. But yeah, you have to be putting in the work. You can't just be hanging out and partying and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think that the recipe would be like if you're objectively doing the work and there's some kind of metric that would show you that you're even close. Like for me to just be like, I'm just going to put in the work and be a pro motor. No, like that's not ever happening. But there is people that are close enough. Like you said, you were kind of in the ballpark, and there's just a formula of like do the work for a long enough period of time, and the results will catch up to themselves.
Yeah. Well, and then that opens up another avenue of like, it's who you know. Are you good to people? Treat people well? Like I think your reputation. Like I've seen plenty of riders where they're just a pain to deal with. And I mean, in this day and age, like these top level guys are pretty easy to deal with. So you can't be a pain. You have to be easy to deal with, work well with others, and yeah, be resourceful.
When you say you went all in on fitness over skill, essentially, I've seen you like post about this and talk about this. So your theory is that you are better off having more fitness than skill as a motocross racer?
That's
let's clickbait some people on the internet right now.
Yeah, fitness or technique, right? That was the thing that I talked about. And I genuinely feel like, okay, technique is like you have to have the fundamentals to be a safe and fast and effective dirt bike rider. Like for sure you have to have good
there's
technique.
like a floor that needs to be met.
Yeah. That's going to help. That's going to unlock the speed, right, in a safe manner, because you in order to be fast, you have to keep building day after day, like that consistency. But I think when you get to the pro level, it's different as a vet guy. And that's one thing I've learned coaching. Like you can't just do a cookie cutter plan because you have a vet guy, you have a GNCC, flat track, snow cross. Like there's all these different variables. Someone fast twitch, maybe someone's a little bit slower and endurance is their strength. But I think for me at the pro level, top 15 wise, technique is pretty similar. Like if you look at, let's say, 450 Supercross practice, the top 15 are probably within 2 seconds, right? But there's a huge variance of fitness level there, and for me, I think just simply, okay, the fitter I am, I'm not going to get tired as fast. It's going to reduce the injury risk, so for me, I guess I just really placed emphasis on fitness just because I didn't want to fade, and I didn't want to get hurt. And
so when did you make that call in your career? And when did it start to pay dividends? When did you see it work for you?
Probably my third year, I would say. I actually trained with Rhino in 2010 for a little bit and actually learned a lot there. But then in 2011, honestly, I really got into like running. I started running a lot. I was doing probably 30 to 50 miles a week, like in season, like Monday.
30 to 50 miles a week?
Yeah. Yep, and dude, and that was this. Okay, don't judge me on this, but that was like during the Born to Run, the barefoot shoes. I was doing all those miles in like the barefoot shoes, essentially barefoot.
Okay, let's just sidebar there. Did that help? Yeah. Is it good for you? Did you feel anything?
In retrospect, that was just a fad. Yeah, I don't run in barefoot shoes. I think that it kind of led to some knee injuries potentially down the road.
Yeah.
But dude, I will say like, I think it actually does help running economy, like running barefoot. Occasionally, I don't think you should do 50 miles a week barefoot, but
you're such a psycho. I love that, dude.
But yeah, like literally, I remember my first podium in Southwick. That was like a breakout ride for me. 2011, 1110 mods, went 10-3, got led for a good 15 minutes, I think, at the second moto, and then ended up third. But I remember that week because on Monday we were riding at a sand track. Actually, you might even been to this sand track in Minnesota. Jeremy and I were at.
Yeah.
You might have filmed there.
Yeah, yeah.
So my bike blew up on Monday, and I was so pissed. So I went home and did a 10-mile run.
Yeah.
Tuesday, woke up, another 10-mile run. Wednesday, another 10-mile run. So I did like 30 miles in 3 days, and then went out and podium that weekend.
Wow.
But yeah, so I was doing a lot of 10, 12-mile runs that
And
summer.
you could feel your fitness late in that moto. Like, how did that moto play out?
I mean, other than kind of the oh shit moment, like I'm leading a national for the first time in my life, I just think that like the more I'm a cardio guy, maybe. I do think strength is good, especially as you get older. Like you have to do strength training, but I think like with cardio, I look at it like the more you can train your heart and your lungs, right? The stronger you can get those, the more they're going to pump blood to the rest of your body. It's plain and simple. So I just thought cardio-wise, like more is better.
You're making me want to run through a wall, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like sometimes, like from a physiology standpoint, it's like the stronger your heart and lungs are, the more blood you're pumping to the rest of your body. Like that's a win-win, you know.
When I was training for World Vets, it's like kind of the only time I've ever trained for a motocross race. And I wouldn't say I trained properly, but I did a lot of motos. I think I had it on my Garmin, so I did every moto that year with a Garmin. I think I had 72 20-minute motos for the year, which was good for me.
Yeah.
And I was running, and I was doing a lot of zone 2 running. Where I fucked up was I didn't do any interval stuff or high intensity, and I could actually feel that in the race. But I got to the point where I could just do a 20-minute moto at Glen Helen, super rough, and I could just do it. I wasn't sprinting. I wasn't like going super hard, but I could get through those better than I ever had. And the running was massive, I will say. And I also think that maybe cycling, that's kind of like my next question, is like cycling or running, but I feel like there was a certain level of stress adaptation that happened in my quads, particularly from running, to where I felt like I could kind of take the load of riding more because of the load that my legs were under when I was running. Yeah,
no, it's interesting you say that because so when I noticed this when I retired and started training for marathons. And then my brother, so he was actually going to do a marathon with me before the start.
Yeah, he bailed on you.
Yeah,
he raced the national, so he didn't have to do
I'm like, yeah,
the marathon.
Yeah, little bro, he's a puss. It's coming for him though. But no, it was fun because it could have been like a Martin Brother showdown. You know, like I probably need 3 years of training just to get him in the first marathon. Seriously.
Really?
Like he's just a genetic freak. You know.
I was going to ask about that. Let's sidebar that. Let's go to that later. Yeah.
But so what were we talking about?
Running. You said after you started training for marathons.
Oh, yeah. So Jeremy was saying that he's like, dude, I feel like I can just stand all the time. Like, I don't have the desire to sit. You know, like my legs, like, I don't know if they have more energy or whatever. And like, I kind of noticed the same thing. Like, once I started increasing a lot of running, like, I just didn't want to sit. You know, I felt like I could just stand longer. And it makes sense that would apply to the dirt bike.
Yeah. And I felt it a lot when I was doing that because I just never really run. Like I ran playing football and stuff like when I was a kid, but I never trained running. I always was one of those things where it's like, I hate running. I'm not a runner, but I kind of got into it and I started to enjoy it more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
But I just definitely felt stronger in my legs and that I could kind of take the impact of riding. And Sam Sunderland, do you know who Sam Sunderland is?
He's an off-road guy, right?
Yeah, Dakar guy. And I was in Dubai at the time when I first started running. And that's another reason too, is I didn't have a gym. We just moved to Dubai. We were like moving around, trying to figure it out. So I literally just went to the mall, bought a pair of shoes and was like, okay, I need to do something. And this is basically what I can do. And that also opened my eyes to just how great running is, because you can do it anyway. You just need a pair of shoes or not if you're training.
Yeah, the barrier of entry is so low,
you
know. But that's actually a good point of like to answer your question earlier of running or cycling. Like I genuinely believe like whatever you want to do, like you can be successful on the dirt bike. Like if you're a runner, a cyclist, if you do the skier, a rower, kayaking. I mean, honestly, when I lived in Claremont, Florida, like I kayaked. a lot. Like, honestly, phenomenal upper body workout. And there's a lot of lakes around Claremont, and I would just go on the kayak for a couple hours. And I mean, dude, it's a great way to stack volume. You know, like when you start doing running and cycling, which is lower body cardio, and then you're adding in ski erg, rower, or kayaking, like it's a good way to kind of get both ends of the cardio spectrum, upper and lower body. But I genuinely feel like you can do whatever form of cardio you want, you can do it. But having said that, I think running is probably the most effective bang for your buck, you know, just being weight bearing. The problem is just people with their knees and ankles, you know, they're not always that good. But having said that, like, so when I retired, I remember I was at Millville and I was weed whacking, okay? Because that's just what the Martin brothers do at Millville, you know, upkeep of the facility.
Yeah, some big hills.
Yeah.
There's a lot
dude,
of grass.
Like, we did a lot of weed whacking growing up. I'm weed whacking side to side like this, and I can literally feel my knees like popping in and out. Like my knees were not good when I retired, and dude, after 3 years of running now, like between 50 to 60, 70 miles a week, like they're the best they've ever been. You know, so I don't know what that is, but I feel like if you don't use it, you lose it type of deal.
Yeah. No, definitely. And that was the point I was going to make when I mentioned Sam, is I was asking him about training, and he just said, bro, just start running. He's like, bang. He's literally said what you said. Bang for your buck. Running is the best thing that you can do for motocross. And if you think about, so like Prado loves cycling. That's his thing. Loves it. And he was just like, oh, this is the best. I do these 2-3 hour rides, and I put on all these Ks on my legs. And it's like, to do that in, like, the ratio of how long you would have to spend on a cycle bike versus the running, like, I feel like to cycle, you just probably have to do it for a longer period of time to get the same effect. Maybe not in heart rate zones, I guess, but in terms of just like pure, like what you're putting on your legs, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, I did a lot of cycling in my career too. You know, I think that's the main form of cardio for most of us, right? Just because whether it's time or sponsorship of bikes, or just because it's easier, you can do group rides with people, and like there's a large discrepancy of running fitness, I feel like, in moto. I mean, you could have a guy like Dino, for example. Like, I remember for him to do like an 11-minute mile was pretty tough, you know, whereas like for me, like zone 2 would be like 7:30, 8-minute mile, you know.
Wow.
So it just kind of, it varies a lot. So yeah, it's kind of funny.
We need to bring you a quick word from our sponsor, motorsport.com. I got a YZ450F that I got some upgrades to do. You know exactly where I'm going. I'm going to need some help with customer service, so I'm going to chat with a gearhead. This box showed up. It has a 2007 KTM master cylinder, a Yamaha caliper, also 2007, and a Turner braided brake lines. I feel like this is a very good upgrade for $600. Need the old hanger, so we're gonna put a bit of grease on that and get it back on, bolt her up. Caliper has been done. Now this can just get bolted on. Now, shout out to Kiefer, who I think stole this off Doug DeBark. That was easy. Nah, that was easy. This is a pretty epic upgrade. You can get OEM parts to build this little Frankenstein brake kit, or basically anything else for any brand, by going to motorsport.com. So, all right, let's talk about the Martin brother genetics, because what year was I filming with you guys? Do you remember?
It was 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 26, yeah, because had you just got on Star, or you hadn't yet got on Star?
Yeah, so 2016, I was on Rock River in 2015, and then 2016, I was on Star.
So you would have been on a Star bike when I was there, do you think?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, dude, my memory's shit. I wish it was better.
It's only 9 years ago, dude.
Yeah. So I fly in. No, it was the day after the National, wasn't it? So we did the National. We filmed the National. And then I think like Sunday was a recovery day. Mm-hmm. And then Monday was fucking savage. And I remember you guys were mountain biking all through the trails at the property
Millville.
at
Yeah,
Millville. Yeah. And Phil Nicoletti, I will never
you
forget this, dude. Phil Nicoletti comes down the hill. Fuck these guys. I fucking hate these dudes. And he has blood all over his face because he went over the bars on the mountain bike
Yeah.
and was just literally cursing
Yeah,
you guys out.
Phil never figured out the mountain bike thing for some reason.
I just don't think Phil enjoyed the program of,
Yeah.
of the Martin
Well, he
brothers.
kept coming back though, you know. Yeah, there was like so 2015, 2016, Jeremy was training with Osho, Johnny O'Mara, and
that's
then
right.
like Phil and I were basically just hopping in for free, you know, just riding the coattails, and it was literally like, yeah. So back in the summer in Minnesota, it was a little bit different, but like in the wintertime, we're with Johnny almost every day. I mean, it was literally like 30-minute run every morning, 2 40-minute motos, 2-hour bike ride in the afternoon, like going up the foothills, the Corona area there. And I mean, you could look on Strava, like you'll see our times. It was like we were time trialing up these mountains every day, like 30, 45-minute just hammer fest up a mountain in the middle of a 2-hour ride. And that mentally for me, that's, I think when my career really took off was just because I remember in 2015 going into Glen Helen, and I was just like, we'd done that for 2 months, and I was like, dude, I can't fail. Like I literally have trained so hard, like I can't fail.
Yeah, this will be so easy.
Yeah. So I mean, that really gave me a perspective of just what the mind and body can handle, you know, and just that amount of volume, you know, it definitely helped.
I just remember that day being like, whoa, this is gnarly. And you guys did the motos on the national track with no water and as not prepped from the national 240s. And it was a sight to behold. And I left there being like, holy fuck. And it was also wild to see how hard it was for Phil. Like mentally, no offense, Phil, we love you, but like mentally, that was crazy hard for him. Physically, that was crazy hard for him, and it seemed like it was a little bit harder for you than Jeremy. But you guys were just on a completely different planet. And Phil is an amazing dirt bike rider and racer. So that to me was a day where I was just like, there's levels to the game mentally and physically, and I'm like, what's going on genetically there? Like, is Phil just never going, like, could his body and like just never get to that place?
Honestly, that goes back to like physiology. From a physiology perspective, like my brother's VO2 was, I want to say it was like above 80 for sure, you know. And
what's normal?
Like 50, you know, 50 to, I feel like, and when you say normal, like, depends if you're an athlete versus like a normal
Just
person.
a normal human.
Yeah. I don't know the numbers for normal human, but
So
like,
less than 50.
Yeah, like he was like above 85, my brother was though. And like, so VO2 max wise, like I was a couple notches down from that, and then Phil was like way down from that.
Really?
You know? And so it's just like every day, I mean, literally, like if just picture time trialing up a mountain, you have J Mart, and then about a minute or two back is Osho, and then another 2 minutes back is me, and then like 5 minutes back is Phil. And like it's funny because you have switchbacks, you know, in the foothills,
so you're
right?
seeing,
You're climbing the fire roads essentially, and it's
yeah.
like you get a glimpse of Germa, and then Osho, and then me, and then Phil's just at the back, you know. So yeah,
but genetics are huge in that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had to train sometimes like twice as hard as my brother. The problem is I could never train twice as hard as my brother because he was
training twice as hard as everyone
literally.
else.
But it was like I had to train harder than him to beat him, you know, or at least have like a bike that was really dialed in to be able to beat him. Yeah, just because like I like to say like he got the genetics of the family for sure.
Yeah. But someone's got to. Like my brother's the exact same. Like so much better than me in fitness across the board. It's like, it's actually pretty crazy to watch, and we've always done the same shit.
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it?
Dude, it's ridiculous. So Jeremy was just a bit of a genetic freak when it came to his physiology.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
How many of the greats in the sport, like, do you think that you can be great in this sport without having that physiological gift?
I think so. Yeah, I don't really know like Jett and Hunter that well, but there's no way. Honestly, I could say firsthand, there's no way they could keep up with Jeremy on a bicycle, you know, or running for that matter. And I know firsthand that Eli Tomac can't keep up with my brother or running or cycling.
Really?
No, there's no way. I mean, I know that firsthand, but like come to a dirt bike, obviously Jeremy's not anywhere near Jett or Eli. So that's where there is that's what's fun about moto, is it's not 100% physical. Like, you have to have the right bike, you have to have the good team vibe, you have to be technically sound, and jiving with everything. It's maybe 60-40 or even 70% bike, 30% rider,
Yeah. And so what do you think then? Is Jett just so good on the motorcycle that he's just not using the energy and the effort that Jeremy would have been using in the prime of his career?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I first started thinking about this. So, like, in marathon running, you have like running economy.
Efficiency.
Yeah, efficiency, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing in running. Whereas in motocross, that's something that's never really talked about. I've never heard anybody talk about it, for example. But like, Kenny was the first person that made me think about this, because I trained with Kenny a lot at Sandbox in Claremont, Florida. And he was so efficient. He's so light on the bike, and like literally to the point where he can even run a softer suspension setting. Like, his suspension setting is soft. Just because he's so light and smooth on the bike, and I feel like Jett is kind of that way too, where he's just so efficient. He's saving such little energy that, like, he may have like a 5% less of a fitness level than, like, let's say an Eli Tomac, but because he's so efficient, he can make up for it.
Yeah, and to play the exact opposite end of the spectrum, like, Eli has amazing technique, but he's not efficient in any way. Like, even the way that he sets up his motorcycle, like doing the podcast with him, it was funny. We talked about how his bike setup was and this and that, and like when he gets arm pump, and then he was like, oh yeah, but they won't let me set up my bike like this because of it. And it's like, yeah, but you want all of the power, which is like, this is giving you this, which is giving you this. Like, that's probably why people were pushing back, right? He's like, nope. He doesn't want to. There's a way that he wants to do it. And so he has to raise to like this level of fitness purely based on the way he wants to ride a motorcycle. And I feel like Deegan's probably the same way, like amazing technique. But the way that they extract a lap time is by just full send all the time. And it's like, with that, you're trading off some efficiency. You're going to need some more fitness, but it just kind of meets in the sweet spot.
Yeah, and that's why it's so cool, right? Is because you can have you can really win 10 different ways. I remember watching a couple years ago, I think it was 2 years ago at the Redbud National, and with Deegan, I'm trying to think, Deegan, he was winning at the time, and I forget who was second or third, but it was like the way he was riding the track, so aggressive on the rev limiter, hitting the freaking braking bumps, not taking the smooth line, and then like whoever was behind him at the time, so smooth, and honestly Deegan was still pulling away, but just like it was a total contrast of like riding technique.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of different ways to get the same thing done. But I just find it so impressive when guys like your brother and yourself come along that really win and do well based on just how hard they're willing to work. Like, I remember, dude, the first time I ever saw Jeremy ride, he was doing a 40-minute moto at Parlour in a black Metal Militia sweatshirt.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I was just, and we're all dying of heat, and that crazy dude was just pounding out a laptop in a black Metal Militia.
He's definitely got a screw loose.
But I mean, crazy cool thing that you guys got to come through your career training and being so close in physiology, so close in sight, so close in everything, and like being able to push each other like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was an awesome, and I always feel like the best years I had were when we were together. We could train together because we got the best out of ourselves. I feel like that you see that with Hunter and Jett as well. That brother rivalry, it definitely kind of carries. Yeah, but at the same time, like, we were always like each other's best friends and hung out and could kind of stay away from the drama or whatever off the track. But it definitely helps the accountability.
It was pretty funny too. Like, there was a lot of shit talk. that would go down between you guys.
Yeah.
Like in that little 2016 filming that we did, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, for sure. I always like to say, like, you know, the bigger brother should be better than the little brother or whatever. And it's like, it really kind of stabs you deep down when little bro, he's 3 years younger than me, you know, is beating me right off the rip. But I'm like, well, fuck, like, I'm on the podium or I'm winning too, you know, so I guess it's okay if little brother beats me.
Well, dive into that a little bit, because really the little brother should do better. At least that's what I've told myself my whole life. Because let's say I was doing things at 15 and he was doing the same thing at 13. And it's like, you've always got that person to chase. You're always the underdog. And when you're younger, the physicality, like your physicality, and you're on a bigger bike. And so like you kind of were better. And there was like that rabbit to chase. Like that has to accelerate your development. And think about the mistakes that got made, your name in the industry, you know, like you're kind of knocking on doors before he is. If you go back to Jett and Hunter, it's like, dude, Hunter was the guinea pig in Europe, and you know, all the things that Darren was like in his head, like, we should try this, we should try that, we should try. By the time the Jett comes along, it's like, no, don't do that. We
do 100%.
We fucked that up.
100%.
You know?
Yeah, no, like my dad raced, but like he came up with some pretty dumb ideas. I'm not gonna lie, you know. It's like trial and error. Like, you know, Jeremy started basically doing the amateur stuff when I did, same year. So basically, he had a 3-year head start, right? Yeah. And so like I didn't go to Loretta's till I was on a Super Mini, got a top 5, and like got some sponsorship and kind of kept it going. But like he was able to kind of get the ball rolling that 3 years earlier, and so by the time he was like, I think A or B, he was on that extreme. I think the Bobby Hewitt team at the time. Like he came into the pro ranks with a factory team, whereas like I kind of had to claw for like 6 years, a solid 6 years before I got the factory. But it's interesting because so obviously he had a lot more success like early on right away, but then like once we both got on the same team and that, like we were pretty evenly matched there for the couple years, because like 16, 17, 18, more or less we were like in a championship battle outdoors those 3 years in a row.
Yeah. So he really did benefit, do you think, from just the trial and error that you had to go through initially?
For sure. 'Cause there's just a lot of things you learn. It's such a steep learning curve, like when it comes to fueling and training, nutrition, bike setup, how to communicate. I mean, and I was still learning like the last few years of my career, like how to communicate with the suspension tech, how to communicate like Cooper Webb was actually talking about this. I saw in an interview, like, you know, he was still trying to figure out this feeling he had on the bike and how to communicate that to the suspension guy, you know. And that just goes to show you, like, you know, Cooper's obviously, yeah, it's Cooper Webb, and he's like struggling to translate that. So there's just a lot of things you're learning every year, and communication, and yeah, like I said, bike setup, nutrition, training. There's just a lot of trial and error.
What were some of the worst things you guys did when you look back?
To be honest, I don't know, because like we were pretty serious. It's not like we were partying. It's not like we were necessarily like overtraining.
Maybe like younger days, like some of the stuff your dad's like, righto boys, you got to go do this.
Honestly, I think more or less like my dad basically, when he pulled us out of like school and we got homeschooled and we kind of went south, like I made it till like 11th grade in high school. Jeremy got pulled out in like 7th grade, I want to say. So like, yeah, poor kid. But I wish I would have taken it more serious early on, like as an amateur, like that BA time range, and even the first couple years pro, like I just didn't really even know like the work that I should have been putting in. So I would say like I wish I just would have trained a little harder back then, but I just genuinely didn't know. I didn't know what I needed to be doing, you know, and so that was kind of a regret. But, you know, I figured it out sooner or later.
Yeah. Which one of you was the fat kid back in the day?
We both were.
Were you both?
Yeah, we used to. This is kind of funny, but like so at Millville, we have the 3rd-story building, and there's a concession stand there. Yeah. And we used to like, it would be unlocked, and we used to just go in there and like raid the Snickers bars and the Kit Kats, and we'd just grab like a handful of candy bars and go eat them in like the first turn tunnel, and then try and bury the wrappers under the dirt. And then finally, like my dad was like, "Why the fuck are all these candy wrappers over here?" And we got busted.
Oh, that's so good. Just a couple little chubby kids running around Millville.
Yeah. Jeremy he was a little porker. Like I used to call him Bubba Chubbs, actually. Bubba Chubbs, because he was a fat little kid. But then, like, dude, I swear, in his Super Mini year when he was Super Mini Suzuki, he just like flipped a switch and lost like probably 30 pounds, which is a lot as a kid.
As a
and
kid.
like had like a 6-pack, and I think he went like 222 at Loretta's to like Zach Bell that summer. But the year before, like, I don't even think he was a top 10 amateur guy at all. Like he was fat.
That's
so
wild,
there was just
eh?
like a switch that he flipped. So
Well, and like mentally, you just think he just decided that that's what he wanted to do?
yeah, I mean, definitely all mental.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's amazing what the mind can do when you really buy in all into something.
What's the formula there, or like what's the you know, like is there something, like is that a thing that can even be taught?
Yeah, there's a little bit of grit and tenacity, right? You know, but I think grit can be kind of, you can acquire grit with time, you know, but I mean, you just got to have it, you know, you got to have the passion, and you got to have like a little bit of, I don't know. I feel like everybody that's super, super successful are maybe a little weird because like that's all they're focused on. And I think the difference between Jeremy and I was like, I was like not willing to kill for first place. Like I was happy with a podium, where he wanted to kill for first place, you know, whereas, yeah, I was just like, yeah, podium, sweet. You know?
And do you think that that's like personality, or that's...
Yeah, for sure, personality.
Yeah. So there's just something different in his versus your personality.
Yeah, like I said, he doesn't like losing.
It's funny, I just did this project. It's about to come out. It's called 100 Hours with Cole Davies. And I basically just went and did the STAR program with Cole from Monday to Thursday when he flew out. So I like did the gym sessions, did the core.
Oh, nice.
Rode a day. It was pretty sick, actually. It was
Yeah.
super, super
Like
fun.
a boot camp for you.
Pretty much, yeah. And fuck, I was sore, bro. Like Tuesday, dude. We did this workout where it was like deadlifts and then the push-ups, but then you pull and then pull and then like
Renegade rows.
Renegade rows. There you go. And then my feet were on the rowing machine and doing almost like a pike and then some lunges. So there was like one circuit, then I had to do another circuit, then I had to finish off with like burpees, push-ups, and planks. And fuck, I was so sore from the deadlifts. Like, and I do deadlifts, but it was a lot. But
and that was probably after he rode, right? Or was that?
No, so I did this was like a boot camp workout. So none of the boys did that. They all did like a bit of more of a recovery. Okay. So I got like the real one.
Yeah.
But it was funny, like just being there that week and seeing Cole's mentality. Like there was almost a part of me that was like, chill, bro, you're 17, like just fucking relax, man. Like he was so gnarly about...
Really?
Dude. Like crazy. Like, and then every time I've seen him this year, like I'd go in the truck after practice. Like obviously I'm going to have a soft spot for a young dude coming from where we come from, you know?
Sure, yeah.
And so I'd go in after practice and he'd just like, dude, you got fourth. That's a fucking like pissed.
Yeah.
Anything not a win, anything not for... I'm like, just chill, dude. Like you're doing really, really good. But there's a thing in him that's win or die, and it's just very obviously on display, and it's like you shouldn't be winning right now.
That's a
like,
dangerous combination.
It's crazy,
you know,
dude.
when you get that with the work ethic, that's dangerous.
But you can see that's just a natural... Like there's no... It probably... Not to say it shouldn't be his perspective, but he should have a bit more... Like if it was me, I would be like, it's my first season... Top 5 is amazing in Supercross. Like everyone thought I was going to be racing futures this year. So if you layer in the perspective, it's like, dude, 4th is amazing. But to him, that none of that matters. It's like, I should be winning these things. Yeah,
and that also makes me think though, like there is a certain element of like, I think that is necessary. It's a dangerous combination, but I think you can also be successful from like a calculated approach where you're like, for me, for example, like I read a lot and I wanted to learn like physiology of like fast twitch training, slow twitch, endurance, strength training, and like how to apply all that. And I feel like by educating myself, I was able to maybe train a little bit smarter, you know, versus just hammering myself, you know, into the you know, hammering the wall. And I do feel like that calculated approach helped me. But like, yeah, it's a dangerous combination because I think with, like you see Cole Davies, like with Swanee and that crew, they're like, they're training pretty well, pretty smart, you know, and well as he has the grit and the fire. So
Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah.
And to be that young with like that level of intensity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What? So you read a lot of books through your career?
I did. Yeah.
What got you into that?
Dude, probably just going back to like elementary school, man. Loved Harry Potter.
No shit, my man.
Loved Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, like
no way.
Yeah,
that's epic.
Yeah, I actually like. I feel like I've read the whole Harry Potter series like at least 5 times. Like when summer would, when school would get out, I would just like start reading the first book and be done with the 7th one. Like actually, when I started reading them, I think it was only on Harry Potter #4. Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
And so I loved reading, but then also I was just like kind of going back to like the 11-10 days. I'm like, all right, like this is where my bike situation is at. Like if I can understand the human body better, like training wise, like it's only gonna help me, right? And I was just kind of like a sponge. I just wanted to learn it all, nutrition, strength training, cardio, how to structure everything. So yeah, I dove headfirst, read a lot of books back in those days.
That's awesome, dude. I talk about it all the time, but I think reading's one of the most important things a person can do. Just in life, in general, period. There's nobody that I know that reads a lot of books that's an idiot.
Yeah. Well, and like kind of like your point earlier, it's a good way to shortcut all the trials and tribulations. There's a lot of people out there that have failed and made these mistakes, and a lot of times those people write books, and so you can learn about their stories and their thought processes, and that's just expediting your story, Yeah.
The way that I've always thought about it and explain it to people as well is I was like, okay, let's go back to iPhone 1. They've made that way better. So they did the first thing, they made the first iPhone, and it wasn't as good as it could be. So then they made the iPhone 3 and the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 10, and now we're onto the iPhone 16. The book is still the book. They nailed it. It's a pen, and it's paper, and it's words, and you read it in a row. They never had to change it for thousands and thousands of years. It's like the only piece of technology that they just got right. And to me, just knowing that says a lot about that medium, and that there's probably some shit there that you should pay attention to.
Yeah, for sure.
What were some of the books that really improved your outlook on maybe like training, but just mentality as well?
Yeah, so you're putting me on the spot here. I should have, because I have like a whole library downstairs. It's been a while since I've read them, but like endurance training for athletes. There was one Beyond Training book that I think by Ben Greenfield actually. I read that one. That was kind of like whoa, that like opened up my world to like
really
biohacking and just supplements and nutrition and he's
a G, dude.
Yeah, and that was, I've learned a lot reading that book. I don't know. There's a lot of books out there.
This podcast is brought to you by our new electrolyte partner, SOTA Fuel. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you would know that I'm pretty big on the whole hydration thing. Every single day, I make sure I drink water mixed with SOTA Fuel electrolyte mix. SOTA Fuel is packed with all 6 essential electrolytes and key vitamins to help keep you hydrated and performing at your best. With up to 5 times more effective hydration than water alone, you'll stay energized and focused throughout your ride. Plus, there's no added sugar, so you won't experience those dreaded spikes or sugar crashes. As far as a supplement for riding dirt bikes, SOTA Fuel is your friend on and off the track. It helps reduce arm pump, muscle fatigues, keeps you hydrated to avoid headaches, and provides sustained energy to keep you sharp. SOTA Fuel is not only effective, but it's also one of the cleanest and most complete formulas on the market, with 2 to 3 times the electrolytes compared to industry standard, and a cost per gram that is twice as affordable. Lightweight, portable sachets are perfect. Throw in your gear bag, throw in your toiletries bag, throw in your work bag. They've got 4 great flavors, but my personal favorite is this bad boy right here. Gypsy juice. This is our very own flavor. I think it is by far the best flavor out of the 4. Go to sotafuel.com right now or click the link in the description. I would love for you guys to try it. What about from more the mental side?
Yeah, so what is that? There's one that I read. I'm totally blanking on the name of it. But Yeah, there was one mental book.
We can put it up on the screen now after the pod.
Yeah.
You send it to me.
Yeah, but there was one book that I read like over and over again for my mental side. I think I started reading it in 2014 or whatever, because I was just in Supercross. I was just struggling with the mental side of it and how to control the nerves, how to blitz a set of whoops and triple in or whatever. And I feel like that book really opened up Pandora's box, essentially, to just like learning how to control the race day nerves, like coming down to like breathing patterns and positive affirmations on the track, and just like really trying to get out of your own head, essentially, because those are things that aren't there during the week, but then for whatever reason on Saturday, when there's 60,000 fans in the crowd, they pop up.
So that was a struggle for you in Supercross.
Mm-hmm.
So the riding of Supercross wasn't the hard part, it was actually getting there on the race day.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, Supercross, that's what's tough, is it's just another level of pressure, and the obstacles you're being forced to, essentially forced, because if you don't jump them, you're a 15th place guy versus 5th or winning.
Yeah.
Whereas outdoors, it's a little bit more, you can find your flow, and you have 70 minutes essentially to prove yourself. Where in Supercross, like, bam, you have to get the whole shot and be on point right from lap 1. So, yeah, the nerves are at an all-time high, for sure. So it's something you have to just come to terms with and learn how to deal with it.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, I've just never really, just to say point blank, like, they're the thoughts that aren't there during the week. That is kind of like a light bulb in my head in a way, because it's like, yeah, that's pretty true. That's the gnarly side of competition, right? Is like, you can train to do the thing, and you can be great at the thing. Like, so at start, Christian Gregg, Tuesday was as fast as Cooper Webb. Didn't dropped a second off him over 20 minutes, and is getting lapped by him on the weekend. Same guy, same tracks, same bike, same riders. Which
is weird, because like, Christian's figured it out at one time or another. But that's also what's tricky about the sport, is it's success can be so fleeting. You can have it figured out one year, and then you change teams or bikes, or maybe you can't get your suspension figured out or whatever, and it can haunt you. It's tough. That's where it's amazing when you see guys like Cooper to win like 3 Supercross titles, and to overcome those trial and error, and those tribulations. It's impressive to figure that out.
Yeah, and I think, from all accounts, like, he was in one of those holes at the start of this year.
Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And you look at what he did, and I think that there's obviously like an element of some guys went out of the championship for sure. But if you look at the speed that Chase was showing, like, you're probably not going that much faster than Chase Sexton just on pure speed on a Supercross trip. You know what I mean? So it's not like the level came down a crazy amount. It was just a couple less dudes in the field,
Yeah, and that just goes back to like being a gamer, Like, I always say, like, Saturday pays the bills. It doesn't matter how good you are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like, sure, you have to put your work in and you have to try, but like, Saturday is what counts. You have 15 or 20 minutes on Saturday to make your mark, and that determines your paycheck for the next foreseeable future, and just being able to be there when the gate drops. Like, there's a lot of things that go into like getting off the grate good, navigating the first turn clean, getting through the first lap clean, but then also hitting your marks for frickin' 25 laps, with 60,000 fans screaming. And then also, like, that was one thing in my 450 Supercross rookie season, like, just, dude, like, how beat up the Supercross tracks were compared to the 250 class. Like, dude, Supercross is so much easier on a 250 than it is a 450, just because the tracks are so gnarly. The way they develop and the whoops, how cupped up they get. It's gnarly. So, and
then you're dealing with the bike that has way more horsepower on a track that's way more beat up.
Yeah, and so, going back to like trial and error. So the 450 year, I had like I basically detuned the bike as the season progressed. I started out with like a high comp piston and like ignition stuff, and like I kind of just kept stripping it away. And then halfway through the season, we came up with a heavy flywheel. And I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I literally went from like crashing like 2 or 3 times a weekend on Saturday Supercross to like, we put this heavy flywheel in, and it just made the bike for me, like, I was only 140 pounds, right? 5'4". So like 450 is a big bike for me, but that heavy flywheel made it so much easier to ride this bike. And I literally stopped crashing. Just that simple change there. So, and obviously I was kicking myself. I wish I would have found that out earlier, but so.
That's crazy that it made that big of a difference.
For me, it did.
What was the crashes that you were having? Was there a typical crash?
No, it was just like, dude, I'd get like whiskey tick. Like, it's so the bike was so fast, like I couldn't handle it. Like, yeah, sometimes it would just be out of control, and then like you throw in a little bit of arm pump into the equation or getting tight, and it's just like, dude, you're throwing a Hail Mary out there.
Not fun. Not cool. I was at Daytona when your brother did the 450, that first one, and he was like, 3 seconds faster in like the first practice or second like it was insane, and then just fucking yarded the thing for the rest of the night. We're like, well, 450s must be pretty hard to ride.
Yeah. I think he did he get second on the podium that night?
Did he? What was his like
end? Daytona. Yeah, because Daytona 450, right?
Yeah,
dude. He led most of that main, and then he almost won it, and then Eli got him. Yeah.
But he yarded in practice.
That was like his one hit wonder
on Geico, right? Yeah. That's insane. But they do a heavier flywheel for the Yamaha 450. That's like my bike at the moment. Maybe I should get it.
Yeah, I'm biased, but I love that thing.
Yeah, big fan of the heavier flywheel.
Yeah, I know maybe it's because I'm a little guy or whatever, but I like, now that I'm back at home in Millville, we have local races at Spring Creek, and we have a series, and like I see these vet guys that are like riding these 450s, and I'm like, dude, this is too much power for the average person. Like they're gonna die out there.
Yeah, well, I've been a big Church of 350 guy, so
I have a 350. That's my retirement bike.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll get to that next. I want to stay on one thing. What you were saying about like Saturday night is when you get paid, and that's what matters. The other thing that was crazy at Star was Cole got dropped on Tuesday.
Really?
Tuesday, like dropped. And I was there. It was like shocking to see, like, Deegan was just like marching forward. And this is coming off 2 wins in a row.
Sure.
And I'm saying to the boys, I'm like, damn, like, that's not. And they're like, no, this is how it is. And it was crazy to me to think, like, what would it take personally, like the conviction you must have to have those days through the week and still win on the weekends? Like, can you speak to what that must be like? Well,
I was going to say, so I can speak to this on a really personal level, because I was that guy. Like, I was getting my teeth kicked in. Like, whether it was my brother during the week, whenever we were training together over the years, like, he was always faster than me. Literally, like, sometimes he'd lap me in a 40-minute moto at the farm. Before it was, like, the Star compound, it was, the farm. And, yeah, he would, like, lap me in a 40-minute moto. And then fast forward to like my TLD years, like Shane McElrath. Dude, that guy would literally, I don't think I ever beat Shane in a practice moto during the week. In 2017, 2018, it was like he would just be blowing my doors off in a 235s at Albans on a Tuesday. And then he's like 10th on the weekend, and I'm on the podium every weekend. So I feel like on a really real level, I can relate to that. I think back to the personal conviction, like I just knew, like, once you get a little taste of success and you know how you feel physically and how dialed you are in with the bike, you know that you can get it done on Saturday. And so then it kind of takes the pressure off during the week, because you're putting in your time, but you don't necessarily like have to like win Tuesday, because you know that on Saturday you can get the job done.
And yeah, so it almost can become a blessing in a sense if you're the guy that has got results on the weekend, because so much of being an athlete, so much of just being a person is the story that you tell yourself about yourself, right? And then actually believing that story.
Yeah, For sure, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it kind of goes back to a little bit of the delusion, But
Yeah.
and even like another example would be so like Chase Sexton's first, I think it was his first Supercross season. Would it have been?
Was it 19?
2019?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, dude, we did almost every moto together in the off season that year.
Really?
At Sandbox, yeah. Like that was actually a really fun year because it was like AC, Chase, and myself, all 250s. Kenny was 450. He was kind of like the dad of the group, And it was fun because there was just like not much egos at that time, and yeah, Chase and I did all of our motos together. And like, dude, he would be lapping me in a main event moto on Tuesday at Sandbox, and then we showed up to Minneapolis, and like I think he did crash or tip over in the main, but I ended up beating him, and he was just like so pissed. But it was like that's where the experience and wisdom kind of prevailed in that moment.
Yeah, yeah. And so you would literally so let's go back to you getting lapped in that's on paper demoralizing. But so you just had a level of conviction in yourself.
Yeah.
And you just knew that you would rise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that comes from having done it already, but I knew that on Saturday I could get the job done, which obviously for me, I'm not winning, but I could get the job done by being up there and competitive, and I think in Minneapolis that year I was like third until the last lap and Jay Coop punted me.
Yes.
And like the corner before the finish, and I was like, fuck, in front of the hometown fans.
Yeah.
And like Chase might have been fifth or whatever that night. But yeah, like just knowing that you can get it done on Saturday makes a big difference. And it's actually cool to see Davies is like that, It's actually kind of crazy to think that at 17 years of age, he already has that conviction and can chill during the week and then get it done on Saturday. That's scary.
That's kind of what I went away with, to be honest, because yeah, I was just like, man, and especially when you see the opposite was true for Christian. Obviously very different points in their career and very different ages and just everything's different, but like to be just as fast as the points leader that's won a bunch of races through the year, and like literally he went on to win his third title. Like, is it almost better or worse, or is it just how you mentally deal with the situation? Because it's just that's two sides of the same coin, right?
Yeah, that's interesting because maybe Coop has a championship in his mind and he's just kind of cruising during the week, putting his laps in and not putting a lot of pressure on. I don't know. It's hard to say. Another example I have is like preseason, I think it was 2017. TLD, we were in California and we did all like Mitch Oldenburg, Shane McElrath, Jordan Smith. Like we kind of did all of our motos together when we were on TLD that off season. And Shane was like pretty good, but he wasn't like blowing us out of the water by any means. Like we were all pretty close lap time wise, and in a 15-minute moto, pretty close. And then Shane went out and won A1. It's the first time he won A1.
Yep.
And I swear to God, the next week he was 3 seconds a lap faster. Like, literally, I don't know what changed. I mean, obviously, mentally something changed. But, like, same track, same conditions, 2 to 3 seconds lap faster than everybody. And I'm like, wow, that was crazy.
Just found a level.
Mm-hmm.
That is insane, dude.
Yeah, that's the power of the mind.
Yeah. And I wonder, too, like, if there is a thing, like, at least so for me, like, if I'm in the gym, I feel like I can't go 100%. Like, no matter what. Like, I'll give you 100%, but it's not 100%. There's something, whether it's like accountability, pressure. Like, a big thing for me would be like, I just don't want to lose in front of people. Mm-hmm. Like, I would feel embarrassed for those people, and I'd feel embarrassed for my teammates that trained with me and my coaches, and like, that is more in the back of my mind. And I feel like when I go into a competition setting, it's like literally a completely different person. But I cannot tap into that guy on a regular basis or in the gym. Like, I feel like the level can come up if I'm training for a competition. But like, I'll go train tonight after this and I'll give 100%, but it's 30 to 40% of what I actually do on a competition.
Yeah, and so this is kind of interesting. I think so in other sports, and this is where, like, going back to the training piece and education piece, I would look to like running and cycling and triathlon, because I feel like those sports have teams of doctors and scientists around them, right? And they're measuring blood lactate and all these different data points that help make the athletes better. And so one of the things that's really common in endurance sports is like the Norwegian method, right? And essentially it's like double threshold, 2-a-days, and basically what you're seeing is like, so athletes are measuring their lactate and they're making sure they don't go over a certain threshold of lactate, or essentially going too deep into the well, right? So like if you have, and it kind of applies to motocross too, but it's like motocross hasn't quite caught up, and so Davies is, you could almost say like Davies is kind of like intuitively he's kind of following that advice, but essentially when you go super hard in the well, it makes it hard to be repeatable and do it day in and day out. Whereas like if you just give it an 80% effort, it's more repeatable. And I think that's where the consistency of day in, day out prevails, because I mean, if you hammer yourself on Tuesday at an outdoor national, between like, let's say Southwick and Redbud, if you really go deep in the well on a Tuesday, there's a good chance you're not going to be recovered by Saturday. So, but that's where like science and other sports is catching up, and it's kind of validating that.
Yeah. And I think that there's like kind of a key ego piece in there, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So you look at, not name names, but like maybe there's people at Star that like winning on a Tuesday matters to them. Like, okay, I could see Deegan wanting to win everything all the time, 24/7, want to beat the 450 guys, want to beat like, and that's where his own personal confidence comes from. And there's just like a level of like win, and you just ride on your own momentum of I'm the man, and then you just believe it over and over and over. But then there's also like, you would hear stories, and Marv's told me on here, like he would beat Dunge every single practice session for his whole career.
That's another one.
And would never beat him on a Saturday, or like very rarely beat him on a Saturday. And I also think that there's a bit of an ego piece there, to where it's like, to genuinely be okay with losing during the week, if it's for a net positive, like you said, to not dip in too deep into the well, and to come in knowing that you'll be ready on Saturday. Like I think that's also a component.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. The ego piece is hard, and that's something that's learned, which is scary when a 17-year-old has already figured that out, because for me that took until my mid-20s, to figure that out. But it's also, being smart too, and understanding that your body because you think about the amount of times, okay, so we're racing 30 times a year. So you're going
31, sir.
Okay, sorry, 31. 31 times a year where you're freaking digging.
Yeah.
You're digging, right? And then you're also being asked to dig every Tuesday or every Wednesday. Like, how realistic is that? Like, that's probably why like Ricky and some of those guys were retiring when they were 27. It's like, dude, you can only ask so much from your body for so long before it burns out, So I think having a more calculated approach is going to help for longevity too.
Yeah, and I think that there's again, at least for me, like in my own experience, like there's been times where there's people in gyms where I just cannot lose to that person. And it's a Monday night after a full day of work, and I'm going to fucking war with this person for literally no reason.
Are you just talking your local gym?
Yeah, just my local, where I train every single night, the same people, the same everything, and I'm just like, I'll fucking die before that guy beats me.
Yeah, you needed to see a mental coach.
Literally, but I've been in those positions, and it's all ego. But if you get into that as a professional athlete, and my point is like, it's taxing, and it becomes a place you don't want to go. It's a place you don't always want to be if you are faced with that every time. And I think that's probably the reason some people have even left Star in recent times, is that level of pitting yourself against your teammates every single day, and the shit talk that comes with it, and the bravado and the locker room talk just gets too much for people to be around 24/7.
Yeah. No, it's a juggling act, because you want to be, you want to put in your time, but you want to enjoy it. You know, you don't want to be feeling like you're racing during the week, because you are racing on the weekend. You know, and then when it becomes frustrating when like maybe the Tuesday is more of a priority for like the team manager or whatever, or the mechanics, and the Saturday is. You know, that's kind of how I felt a little bit at TLD. It was just like, all right, like we're getting the job done on the Saturday, but like why am I getting so much flack and stuff for like not being good on Tuesday? Like I'm delivering on Saturday type of deal. You know, for me that started to eat with me after a while. I was just like, you know, like what's the real priority here?
And so that was an environment there that contributed to like I guess a bit of a negative feeling.
Yeah, after a while, for sure, because it's just like, yeah, you're getting the job done on Saturday, you know. And it'd be one thing if you're like pulling off on a Tuesday or whatever, you know. It's a different story. But when you're completing the motos or whatever, that definitely got to me after a while.
Yeah. And so how did it work then? Was there a specific team trainer at Troy Lee when you were there?
Yeah, Rattray.
So that, yeah. Okay. And so they would just basically write out the schedule, then you'd do the schedule, but if you weren't competitive or if you weren't on certain times, there was a thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I mean, I remember there was times like Zacho. It would be a Thursday, you know, before Pro National, and he's out there like literally 10 seconds a lap. 10 seconds a lap off. You know, and obviously he's not slow. You know what he's doing. Like, because he's like, hey, he's being forced to do this 30-minute moto, but he's like, okay, I'm going to do it, but I'll do it 10, 15 seconds lap off because I don't want to burn my matches for the weekend, you know. So, and that's where it comes to the point where, like, how important is that seat time? You know, if he's just going to go out and cruise around at 15 seconds a lap off, is it really that, you know, priority?
Yeah. Do you think we do too much in the sport in terms of training and riding, or have the modern programs like kind of leveled out, do you think?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I like to say I think moto is catching up. I think the presence of team trainers is helping, you know, and like science is slowly trickling into the sport, but I still feel like we're probably 5 to 10 years behind like a pro peloton or whatever. But I think the emphasis on like having to ride on a Monday, I think that is just kind of ridiculous in my mind. If you just look at the physiological stressors that you're undergoing on a Saturday, whether it's Supercross or motocross, then you're traveling back, so you're getting up at 4 a.m. on a plane, flying back Sunday, so it's not really the greatest rest day. And then you're being asked to ride again on Monday, which essentially is every time you ride the dirt bike, it's zone 5. You're 190, 200 heart rate, right, for a half hour to an hour. I just think that your nervous system and everything is not fully recovered yet, truly recovered. And I think that there's this emphasis on like having to ride the dirt bike 3 to 4 days a week. You know, and I mean, even I see this at like some of the amateur facilities 4 or 5 days a week. They got to ride the dirt bike, and it's just like there's other things you can develop besides just your dirt bike skills. Like we were talking about your cardio fitness, your strength, mobility. There's other things to develop other than just riding the dirt bike 5 days a week.
Yeah. So if you're like, so you're working with some pro guys now. Mm-hmm. What's the rough bones of how you like to treat those guys? Like, would you say that workload is was a bit less than maybe what you would have done early days in your career?
Yeah, it's tough because everybody's like at a different stage, you know. Like I think what I was doing, like a lot of the 2-3 hour bike rides or like running 10-12 miles, like I'm telling you right now, like if I put a 12-mile run on like Garrett Marchbank's plan, he ain't doing that 12-mile run.
Yeah.
Or he's not riding for the week, you know. So that's where you kind of have to analyze, you know, but you have to just be really smart with how you program off the dirt bike, because ultimately you can't be having them do like intervals in the morning and then going to a Supercross track and trying to do 60 laps, you know, at speed on a Supercross track after they've done like 4x4 intervals, whether it's running or cycling, or even just like doing a heavy deadlift strength session in the morning and then they go ride the dirt bike. So you have to be smart in how you do that for sure. And yeah, like everybody's just at a different stage, so you have to really be careful how much volume you're programming or how much intensity and what part of the season you're in. You know, if you're in the off season, it's kind of free game. I mean, I'm throwing a lot at you for sure, but in season it's tough. It's really tough to build in season. Yeah.
So when you say that we're a little bit behind from the science perspective, like magic wand waving, what you would like to do with a guy from say like November to December of, like a 13-month span, like what would you ideally like to do from that more analytical and scientific perspective?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think one low-hanging fruit would just be nutrition.
Yep.
And simply just the amount of carbs we're consuming. I think that I've seen a lot of moto guys get caught up in like these fad diets, carnivore, keto, low carb or high carb, whatever it is, vegetarian, and like there's just a lot of, you could debunk that so easily. Like from a vegetarian perspective, like, okay, if you're not going to eat meat, well, you need to be aware of your B12, your iron, your essential amino acid levels. There's a lot of things you got to be worried about, You look at other sports, like, so there was a guy that actually just broke the Ironman bike record, Cam Wurf. Dude's an absolute savage, 41 years old, and he was consuming 200 grams of carbs an hour on the bike leg. 200 grams of carbs.
Seems like a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. That's like, I don't know, 7 bagels an hour or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and so obviously,
how is he doing that? Gels?
Well, and that's what's cool is like modern nutritional science has really caught up and allowed us to consume more grams of carbs per hour. And you're seeing a lot of records being broken in other sports just simply because they're fueling more than ever. Whereas in moto, like it's not uncommon for a guy to do 2 35-minute motos at an outdoor nationals and literally just have water, nothing else, no calories, 70 minutes of high intensity racing with water, and so that's a really low hanging fruit there that simply just starting to eat a little bit more appropriately, makes a big difference.
And so what about, all right, let's stick to the nutrition for a second then. How do you eat, and like how do you think about food in terms of like what's the best diet and how serious, because you're obviously still doing marathons and you're still training at a high level?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's a loaded question. Yeah, well, I feel like with food it's tricky because you have your diehards, people that like try carnivore or keto, and it's just like it really works for them and they're so convinced it works. But
so much of that's ego.
It is, and yeah, maybe there's so many stressors in the environment, like chemicals and stuff, and maybe eliminating food makes a big difference for some people. That doesn't mean you need to eliminate it for the rest of your life, though. Maybe after 2 to 3 months you could reintroduce it back in. But yeah, I was pretty regularly like gluten and dairy free for most of my career. I feel like when I was really honing in, gluten and dairy was the first thing to go. But I was also really well aware of like maybe shittier carbs, like crappier carbs, sometimes were necessary, like a Coke or a Snickers bar at the right time, like when you're zone 5 in an outdoor national moto and you're 190 heart rate for 35 minutes, like, dude, your furnace is burning hot, right? And it needs those shittier carbs. But then I really tried to get at least 95% of my food from whole foods, like whole food sources. Like I didn't do a lot of protein powders. I tried to just do like chicken, beef, eggs, that sort of thing. Yeah, but I mean, definitely I'm big on like organic and grass-fed and trying to be really good with food quality, but then there's a time and a place where like we need those shitty carbs, that sugar, and then by all means, like, more the better.
And when are those times? Like when you're whenever you're getting into the zone 5 kind of area, you want to be like really loading up on as many like calorie-dense carbs in a way.
Carb-dense carbs, staying away from protein, fat, and fiber would be a big thing, and really talking about like just carbs essentially, and fast burning carbs. So like I've been kind of getting into this trend of like before a marathon I'll try to do 450 to 500 grams of carbs the day before, kind of carbo loading. So a lot of people think of like, let's have our pasta dinner the night before a race. Well, really you need to start like 24 hours plus before loading with carbs. Like ideally I try and shoot for 3 grams per pound of body weight of carbs. So for me that's about 500 grams. And essentially just trying to get that in, because that's what's fueling your muscles is glucose. And
so what are your go-to meals when it comes to that?
I mean, yeah, it could be pasta dinner, like, rice and chicken, steak. Steak I usually try and stay away from the night before just because it takes longer to digest. But yeah, your basic like a potato, sweet potato, rice, some meat source. I try and stay away from like fiber. That's one thing I've kind of learned is like trying to stay away from fiber the day before, because that can mess your gut up.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
Yeah. And then what about while you're doing the activity? Like, do you do a lot of gels? Like, what's the best way you've found to get those carbs?
Yeah, and so this kind of goes back to like whether you're doing intervals or you're riding the dirt bike, like you need to be having some fast burning fuel, you know, because you look at the heart rates, you know, and even if you look at a graph, you're always burning a percentage of like fat and carbs, but as your heart rate climbs, that needle moves towards
Goes
carbs.
more towards carbs.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's pretty basic. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, like I think so in the marathon I did just a couple days ago, I did.
What, 2 hours and 50?
2:47. 2:47.
Hear that? 2:47 marathon.
Yeah.
2:47 marathon. No, you don't have to look anything up. I'm just 2 hours 47 minute marathon.
Oh, she's got the Google up.
No,
Yeah.
she was ready to riff on some
Yeah.
Google. What was your time? Come on, be proud of it. It's better than my marathon
Hey, it's a
time.
marathon.
5:58.
There we go.
Hey man,
right.
I'm better than.
Goal was sub 6, so
Hey, we met the goal.
Yeah.
good.
I was actually on the phone to Alex before the marathon. We were talking about.
it was awful.
Look, I'm pretty glad I cartwheeled down the hill at Glen Helen. It got me out of it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
It's stayed firmly on the bucket list.
Yeah. You got to do it.
I know I need to. I need to get in that cave. I
Yeah.
need to get in that hurt locker. So that marathon that you just did, what were you having?
Yeah, so I was aiming for. So one thing I've kind of shifted. This was my 8th marathon actually. So since in the first one I did was like
8.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
You're next.
I know. Fuck. I'll have to get on trial training for that.
There we go. I'll hook you up. So there was a big emphasis on carbs, obviously, but then obviously we know electrolytes are important, but I've really been trying to hone in on how many grams of carbs I'm having per hour, and then also how many milligrams of sodium I'm having per hour. And so for this last one, so when I did Boston about a month ago, I was pretty heavy on carbs, around 100 grams an hour, but then I was like, I realized the gel I was having, the SIS beta gel, only has 10 milligrams of sodium. And I'm not cramping per se, but I just am really running out of juice.
You're feeling it in the...
Yeah, I'm just running out of juice kind of. And I do feel like I'm on the edge of a cramp, like between miles 20 to 26. And so for this last marathon, I bumped to a gel. It's called Never Second, and it has 200 milligrams of sodium per gel. And that was a game changer, dude.
Really?
I'm telling you. So I bumped it from about, honestly, 20 to 30 milligrams of sodium per hour to like about 1,200 milligrams of sodium per hour, and that helped a lot for sure. So I think for this last marathon, I was around 90 grams of carbs an hour. I had a gel every 3 miles, and then I consumed 2,400 milligrams of sodium in that time.
How many of your New Year's resolutions have you been able to keep so far? I've been able to keep on track with my daily nutrition habits, as I'm still starting off each and every morning with AG1, the same way I have for years. 1 scoop a day, or one of the convenient travel packs when I'm away at the races, make it really easy to stay on track with my health goals. For me, the benefits of taking AG1 every day are super clear. Firstly, it just sets the day off on the right foot. Secondly, after years of taking AG1, I know how good it is for my digestion and overall gut health. My skin is clearer and my hair and nails are healthier. I love that AG1 is NSF certified for sport, meaning it's been independently tested for quality. When it comes to my health, I want something I can trust, and that's why I've been partnering with AG1 for so long. And AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure you check out drinkag1.com/gypsytales to start your new year on a healthier note. What hydration's the next thing I guess I wanted to talk about. You're big on electrolytes, and do you do any sweat testing or anything like that to see where you're at with electrolytes?
So I haven't done any sweat testing. For me, I like to listen to my body in that regard. I just do the element packet.
Yep.
So I actually carry like a little 12-ounce bottle. I have like a Nike Fuel Belt. It has a 12-ounce bottle on there. and I just put in one whole element packet, so pretty concentrated in 12 ounces water to have 1,000 milligrams of sodium, and that helped a lot for sure.
Can you pull up Gypsy juice? Go SOTA Fuel Gypsy juice. I want to get you something to try. I got my own electrolyte.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Pull it. I want him to just suss the recipe, seeing as so a friend of mine started a company, SOTA Fuel. No, just type in SOTA Fuel up the top
Gypsy
there. So anyway, I'm like massive on electrolytes. So I only have one kidney. Yeah, I was born with one kidney. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. And then I had a snowboard crash, smashed my kidney, had to have all these surgeries. And
oh my God.
So anyway, I'd get like crazy dehydrated because I just didn't know about electrolytes. And then so when I had this whole kidney thing, I'd wake up with like crazy migraines and I'd have high blood pressure, no electrolytes. I started vomiting, and then I was like super dehydrated. Then water would make me nauseous. And so I'd end up having to go to hospital to get a drip. So I got like super into electrolytes. And then a friend of mine basically hit me up and he's like, hey, I'm starting this electrolyte company. I want to give you your own like flavor. So this is my flavor developed.
Sweet.
It's called Gypsy Juice. Go scroll down. But this has no sugar in it basically at all. So that's our ingredients.
Oh, nice.
But I'll get you some.
Yeah, I like it. I'm all about it.
Yeah. So it's, dude, absolute game changer for me is electrolytes. Like I'll pretty much, so it's like fairly concentrated as well. Like if you put one sachet in even like a tall water bottle, it's like still too, because it's sour, it's got no sweetener in it, but it's too much. But I'll drink a full one over like a full packet over a whole day in like multiple bottles of water. Because I can't drink just straight water a lot. I get nauseous from it. So yeah, this is like the game changer for me. So yeah, I'll get you some. So.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm all about it. Now, that's one thing, like doing marathons, like a 35-minute moto or like in Supercross, you don't have to necessarily, well, Supercross, maybe, outdoors is a different story. You could get away with no electrolytes just because you're racing like 50 to 60 degrees and it's not a big deal, but it's like the longer you continue to go at that pace, the more it becomes a priority.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny you said you can feel it. Like I can feel, if I train semi-dehydrated without electrolytes and without drinking like that, then I feel it in my muscles. And I think especially with like jiu-jitsu stuff's like quite isometric, so you're like holding in positions and your muscles burn in a different way when you're depleted from electrolytes, I think, at least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you just kind of lose the desire to keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, so kind of circling back to the nutrition piece, it's obviously a lot of it is trial and error, but so one thing I wanted to say is, like, in my career, I did a lot of blood testing, actually, because I know you talked about sweat testing, but I didn't do that, but I did a lot of blood testing. I was really curious just to see, like, I would do 2 to 3 times a year, get blood draws, and, like, analyze my B12, your B vitamins, iron, which is really important as an endurance athlete in general, testosterone, cortisol levels, thyroid. Like, for me, it was, I just would geek out. I watched YouTube videos, like, how to break down blood panels, and now, like, I can break down these blood panels. Like, I know, like, from a doctor perspective or an athlete perspective, like, where your values should be, your biomarkers. And I feel like I also trial and error, like, the keto diet, and I never went vegetarian, but, like, I tried different foods and incorporated different things throughout the year, different supplements, to learn, like, what worked best for my body. And it was really interesting, the things I learned over the years by doing that. You know, like, definitely learned that keto was not the answer. I actually developed, like, almost like an alcoholic fatty liver after being keto, because I went pretty hard into it my TLD off season, my first year with TLD, and literally, like, my blood numbers were not good. Yeah, so I literally just simply started adding in, like, oatmeal and bananas, and, like, things normalized.
Yeah, right.
So that was pretty crazy. And then also, too, like, over one thing you don't realize, and I think this is more prevalent with, like, some of the riders that have Epstein-Barr, or they're like tired, they have mono, and like there's a lot of stuff that's happening with your adrenal glands and your thyroid and your cortisol levels. And like as the season progresses, you really have to stay on top of that and like monitoring your caffeine intake, like making sure you're eating good, making sure you're eating enough carbs, you know. So there's a lot of stuff there.
The adrenal fatigue thing, I've experienced that in my life, and it was just from training too much, like just going way too hard. And I think not just training, but fight or flight, because it's like literally fighting training and being in that state so much, it just burns your body. Like, but the candle at both ends, and you can definitely see, it's like you just digging yourself into a hole, and then you get to the point where you can't climb out of the hole, and people try and dig their way out of the hole that they're in, and I can really see how it would apply to motocross.
Yeah, big time, because you think about, we're heavily caffeinated, there's a lot of zone 5, and then you're also taking the risk. I mean, there's just that cortisol is being ramped up all the time. And then also, like, you know, our main event would be at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday.
True way.
You know, so I'm like slamming a black coffee before the main. Like I remember going down to the line for the one in the south. What Supercross race was that? I'm totally blanking on it.
Not Alabama.
No. God, why am I blanking right now?
Tampa.
Kentucky? What's the one down there?
I can't remember.
Yeah. Either way.
Yeah.
So Davalos is coming down the line, you know, like chest puffed up like this. He's got a black cup of coffee. He was PC that day or that year. And, dude, that motherfucker dominated the main. But I don't know why, but that just sticks to my mind. Like, he's having a black cup of coffee, like, right before the main event. And then ended up winning that thing. Yeah.
And you started copying because of that.
Yeah.
You're like, I need to get on that,
It's all about the caffeine timing.
Bro, he was a beast in that 250
yeah, he was
PC
really good.
era. Dude, maybe the most dominant heat race 250 rider of all time. Like, that guy could just win a heat race.
Yeah. No, he was good, but, yeah, so definitely caffeine timing is key.
Yeah. So that's your biggest thing, is just getting the right amount of carbs and making sure that you're getting enough electrolytes as well.
Yeah. Well, and the other piece too is I've noticed this with a few amateurs, and then like being a career 250 guy, like there's always that fear of power to weight, right? What's at 8 pounds of horsepower? And so I feel like, you know, some of these team managers and riders like become really weight conscious, so you're not eating enough because you want to be light so you can get a whole shot or whatever, as it is a priority in the 250 class. But I think we should be really looking at like, okay, what's this kid's testosterone levels? Where is his cortisol levels at? Where is his iron? Is his B12 up? You know, and like maybe looking at those biomarkers more so than like, okay, you need to be under 150 pounds, otherwise you're not getting a whole shot, you know. Like, I wish that we were more thinking of that. So,
was your testosterone like naturally in the higher ranges or lower ranges when you were in your career, and would you see it fluctuate like the deeper that you got into the year?
So interestingly enough, like the years that we were doing a lot of cardio, like the Osho days, 2-hour bike rides and stuff, like was probably the lowest my testosterone was. Really dropped a lot. And then when I started incorporating more strength training, it pumped up. And honestly, like I genuinely believe like one of the biggest benefits of strength training for a motocross athlete is simply to keep your testosterone levels up throughout the season. Like the years that I was implementing strength training in my program, my testosterone stayed pretty good up there. I think I was around 700-800 range or whatever. But the years I just did a lot of cardio, it would drop, you know. So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Could you look up how much, or like what would you type in, like how much squats can improve your testosterone? I'm pretty sure that they've done some fairly detailed studies on the correlation between squats and testosterone.
Oh, I'm sure.
In men.
Yeah. Also axe, chopping with an axe.
Really?
Yeah.
That's also
I used to joke because like Phil, like one of his chores growing up in New York was like his dad would make him chop wood with an axe.
No way.
And I'm like, that's why you're so freaking angry, dude. You're just jacked, like testosterone surge.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go. We'll read this. Squats are a well-documented and effective way to increase testosterone levels, particularly when part of a resistance training program. A study by the University of Texas found that squats stimulated more testosterone and growth hormone production than a leg press, even when more weight was lifted on a leg press. Engaging in strenuous exercises like squats, which involve working your legs, can lead to natural increase in testosterone. So yeah, they've literally done studies around it.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen that one in particular, but I mean, it's a thing for sure.
Yeah, and I think there's it almost is like this. We had some early, I remember when I was a kid, there was like you can't do bicep curls because you get arm pump, and you like, is that a fallacy now, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I never really did a lot of bicep curls, I guess. But one thing, too, was, like, yeah, the way you grip a bar for pull-ups. Like, people thought you were going to get arm pump or whatever. And then remember, like, it seemed like people were doing push-ups, like, with handlebars.
Yep.
And I'm like, that we're taking a little far here in my mind, you know. Yeah. I mean, I do feel like with strength training, you have to be pretty strategic about where you put it in your week.
Yes.
You know, in terms of the riding. Like, the last thing you're going to want to do is, like, do a pretty heavy strength session, like, on Thursday or Friday and then go race Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, like, maybe doing it earlier in the week, you know, because there is some sort of soreness. And then also, too, like, being consistent with strength because, as you know, like, when you only do it once a week or once a month, like, dude, the soreness is real.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of riders in the past would be like, oh, like they would strength train and then try and ride the next day or whatever, and they just feel like shit. So then they're like, strength training gives me arm pump or whatever.
Yeah. But I think that there's definitely a way that you could probably do like free weight squats or even front squats, like just because you can't go as heavy with a front squat as you can with a back squat, or like even lunges, just things like where you're using. Because I really feel like, and I guess probably what the study shows is like, if you just do leg press and it's just an isolated quad exercise, basically, like a squat, you're engaging your biceps, your shoulder muscles, your traps, all through your core. Like literally everything has to be engaged to do that movement. And I think that if you got into a routine of, you know, you do squats twice a week, even if it's not super heavy, I think it's that movement is like what you're asking of all of those muscles in your body is probably what is generating like that increase in testosterone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, and then there's also like the force production too, like lifting heavier weight, right? Like there's studies that are saying basically like if you're doing let's say 3x5 deadlift, you know, so you're doing 3 to 5 reps of a deadlift at a heavier weight, like you're recruiting more muscle fibers, more muscle neural units than you would be if you did like 20 reps of a deadlift or whatever, you know. So that's one thing where if you're maybe a slow twitch athlete that's kind of a slow burner, you're more of an endurance base, like incorporating more of that, you know, heavier weight will make you a faster athlete too.
Yeah. And I think that you're right in when you're saying that people should probably put a big emphasis on their biomarkers, because just even like, I think your testosterone is probably just one of the biggest performance markers of like, it's just, that's the thing that aggression, you know, like competitiveness, like there's even these intangible mental factors that having a lot of testosterone has in a person. Like I know a guy who, this was years ago, he got tested for his testosterone and he was like a nicest guy, but just so nice, so soft, so calm, so mellow, like almost asexual in a way, like had a girlfriend, had a fiance, didn't really, sex wasn't that big of a deal to him, didn't talk about it, wasn't like, so he was just like a very calm, subdued like guy, but he was like a physical trainer guy, you know, and he went and got his testosterone tested and he was like incredibly deficient in testosterone, like crazy low to where he had to go on, like they started him on some creams and things like that. But like you could tell, like I could have told him, and I'm pretty sure I was the one that was telling him to get tested. But it's like you can be around that guy and just be like, hey, you just don't have testosterone. Like what you're, the way that you are and the way that you act, this is a guy that just, you haven't got a lot of that stuff coursing through you, and it makes a huge difference to your mood, makes a huge difference to your sleep, competitiveness, aggression. Like you obviously, that's why you see dudes that are on steroids that just go like way off the spectrum, but there is like a healthy level And the more you train, the more you get fatigued, the more that you, like you said, dig into that well, like you're going to start pushing that number down.
And that's why, like, I was really fascinated by getting my blood taken and, like, analyzing those data points, because, like, it gave me power. And I would go so far as to say, like, if you're a factory rider on, like, Star Yamaha or PC or KTM, it should almost be a requirement for these riders to have a blood test done so these team managers can analyze. Because, like, let's say Juju, for example, like, if he's getting hired to perform, but then, like, he's got rock bottom testosterone or his iron is low. I mean, iron is directly important to an athlete. Like, that can easily be addressed with supplements or a diet that's catered to that. Like, there's just so many things that could be addressed, but you don't know until you get a blood test done, right? It's just kind of like almost negligence on the athlete's part, right? Because we're professional athletes that are getting paid a lot of money to perform. The bonuses we get to win, it's a lot of money, and that's like, what's a blood test? $200, to figure out that stuff, and it's not only going to help you from a performance perspective, but it's going to help you long-term from a health and longevity perspective as well.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have someone that you use, like, because is there like services on the internet where you can even get it done?
Yeah,
or you just have a guy that you do it, or do you do it through troll training?
Well, funny enough, we actually, like, when we started troll training, one of the first things I did was hit up a blood testing company. I was like, hey, can you give us a deal? If we, like, promote you or whatever. So we teamed up with Athlete Blood Test.
Okay.
To give us, like, discounts. And they're pretty cool because they look at all of the biomarkers from an athlete perspective, not just your normal doctor perspective. Because as you know, like, it's quite a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, I've literally gone in and asked a doctor to check my testosterone, HGH, free testosterone, like all that shit. And he was like, what do you need that tested? Like, he was very, like, gatekeepy over that. And I was like, bro, it's literally the shit that's in my body. Like, I just want to see, like, I do athletic shit. I want to see where I'm at. But you're right. Like, the average doctor just doesn't really care to look into that.
It frustrates me, actually, because, like, I've seen this with, like, my parents or my wife's parents. Like, they go get a test done, a blood draw from their doctor, and it's like, okay, do you have cancer or are you healthy? Like, they're not, like, looking at all the biomarkers that I think are important for health. It's just like the bare minimum. And that's kind of frustrating because most people think, well, I got a clean bill of health, but there's a lot more going on under the hood than just, like your red blood cells, for example.
So what do you think, if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, you know what, you need to get a blood test, like, what are you looking for in that when you get those results back?
A big one would just be, your testosterone levels, cortisol, your stress hormone, iron. As an athlete, that is really, really important. Ferritin is also important.
So why is iron important?
So basically, the more iron you have, the more oxygen your blood can carry. To dumb it down a lot, right?
Yep.
So if you don't have iron in your blood, enough iron in your blood, your oxygen carrying capacity is just severely diminished. And it's more common than you think, especially as a hard charging athlete. You're sweating a lot and that sort of thing, like, to have lower iron. So that's where, like, having a steak or, like, a vegetarian. I mean, it's going to be mission impossible to have iron up there if you're not eating meat. Just plain simple, because the meat's the most bioavailable source. I mean, you can do it without having meat, but it's just, you'd have to supplement a lot. Long term. And, like, maybe Ferrandis felt good for, like, a year, right, with his vegetarian thing, but, like,
he did feel pretty good for 1 year.
But like, I'm more curious to know, how's he feel in 5 years, 10 years of doing that? That's where I would be at. But so the iron, B12, B vitamins.
Ferritin, you said.
Ferritin's a good one.
What's that?
That has to do with iron.
Okay.
Yeah. So you need higher iron or higher ferritin for your iron. Yeah.
And then so other markers that you're looking at?
B vitamins is a big one. That's directly related to your energy levels. Testosterone and thyroid. Thyroid's a big one too. That kind of has a lot to do with your like adrenal fatigue. And so that's something that really needs to be analyzed and addressed for sure. So those are just a few of them that I would be looking at pretty seriously.
And you can do all that through Troll Train.
Mm-hmm. Well, or you could just, you can go get a blood test from just about anywhere.
Well, I know they can, but
but trolltrain.com, you get a discount.
So did Darkside do all the blood work?
Darkside?
Aren't you training Darkside?
Oh, no, he's a slacker. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't do the blood test. I think that's his problem.
Really? Yeah, maybe. Can't believe it. So I thought he was your star pupil.
Dude, he actually, I'll give him credit. He trained hard. He communicated, which I love when people communicate with us. Like, they're telling us, like, how this workout affected them or whatever. Like, yeah, it was great. He trained hard. Yeah, so it's not for lack of effort on Darkside's behalf.
I just had to give him a shout out. I know he's a big troll train guy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the troll train stuff then. So, like, who's it for? Who can do it? What do you offer? Like, what is the whole thing?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking. So, listen, when I was racing, like, I trained with a lot of different people and learned a lot. And then when I teamed up with John Wessling, we were kind of like, how can we, all this knowledge we've acquired over the last 15 years of racing, him as a coach, me as a racer, trial and error, like, I was paying $3,000 to $5,000 a month for training plans, right, to train with these guys. And I'm like, how can we provide a more affordable training package, for all the things we've acquired and learned? And so we started Troll Training, this online program, just to provide, like, affordable training to the masses, essentially. And it's actually really, really cool. Just the people we've come in contact with, I would say our bread and butter is, like, the vet guy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because every vet guy reaches out, like, asking if our program's for them, and I'm like, you are, like, the guy.
Yeah.
'Cause, they work 9 to 5, or they're juggling family, or they're racing on the weekends, or a weekend warrior. And I think that's where, if you look at our sport, you go out and you buy a $10,000 or $12,000 dirt bike, and then you have a motorhome and all this other stuff. We have a golf cart or a Ranger or whatever, and it's like, I'm like, hey, for like $100 a month, $25 a week, like, we can get rid of that beer gut for you, so you don't get arm pump on lap 3, and you can enjoy riding your dirt bike. But so that's kind of where it started from. Is just essentially we were trying to provide affordable training and try to I think just grow the sport in terms of, like, smart training, right? Like, obviously, cardio and strength training, how to fit that in around a dirt bike schedule, and also just, I think people being fitter makes it a safer sport too, right? Like, trying to cut down on the injuries, because obviously when you get tired, the chance of injuries raise. So
100%, man. And I can definitely say, like, so I rode Elsinore yesterday, which was a huge mistake because fucking everyone was out there. Thought it was like a little media open day, but I mean, I'm a good rider. Like, I can get around tracks and I can ride decently well. I'm just not fit enough to enjoy it. And, like, the experience of getting fit for the World Vets and, how much more I enjoyed riding my motorcycle when I was fit enough to do it. It was just such a night and day difference, and to have both sides of that. And it's like, you're right, it's so expensive to just, even the barrier to entry to be in the sport is huge, and then to not enjoy riding once you've already committed is kind of a shame in a way,
Yeah, like, if you're going to dump all this money in and then you can only enjoy something for like 3 minutes, or what's an average lap time? Like 2 minutes. So maybe like 4 minutes in, you're toast. I mean, that's like kind of a bummer. You're spending like tens of thousands of dollars on that toy, essentially. So yeah, no. And then also just to keep people safe, I do think that being fitter makes you a safer rider. You can handle more. Like, I mean, dude, there's a lot of stuff getting thrown at us every lap, like kickers, whoops. I mean, even like, so it's kind of funny, the Millville whoops obviously are pretty gnarly. They're kind of known for being rugged and physically demanding. And then you kind of go out of the Millville whoops and there was like some downhill rollers. And I was telling my dad, like, last year, I'm like, dude, enough with the rollers, man. Like, I'm pretty fit and I'm feeling it, So yeah, it's just a really demanding sport for sure.
I want to go back to even where we were started, when it was like the whole fitness versus technique thing. There's also something to be said. So there's a saying, I wish I remember where I read it or heard it, but it says that fitness is the mother of all skill. So and it makes so much sense, right? Like, you think about the compounding effect, or the effect that compounding has. And if you're riding, and when I go back to why my brother was so much better than me, is like, he could do so much more work on the bike. So on every time that we went and rode together, he would probably have rode 30% more than me. And
That
so
adds up.
you add that up over years and years and years and years, you know, what you're left with is just like this chasm of a gap between those two people and where they ended versus where they started, you know. And I think like just that right there is one reason to be fit on a motorcycle, is that you're going to be able to spend more time, more productive time on your motorcycle. And that's what I felt when I was doing that World Vets training, is I'd do a warm-up and then I'd do 220s and then I'd do another ride at the end that didn't really have anything associated to it other than like, I want to hit this section, I want to work on this. And the amount of bike time, and every time I got on the bike, I just felt like I could ride. There wasn't like that relearning period almost where like you'd had a bit of time off, your balance is a bit sketchy, you don't want to hit the inside rut because it takes a little bit more commitment and a little bit more effort. So it's like just the nature of compounding, like that you get to take advantage of by being fitter, is massive.
Yeah, and I would even say, so I've noticed since I retired, I've kind of gotten into the marathon training, and my cardio fitness is probably I would say almost the best it's ever been, simply because I'm not traveling and I'm consistently at home, and I can train literally like I'll train like 21 days in a row, take a day off, and go another 21 days. Like,
damn, bro.
Yeah, like I used to do like 6 days on, 1 day off, like take Sunday off every week. Whereas now I'm just like, I train 30 days in a month sometimes. So that consistency of just stacking day after day after day, makes a big difference. And, at the end of the year, you look and you're like, oh, shoot, I trained 300 hours more this week, or I put 300 hours more on the dirt bike, and that adds up.
Yeah, yeah. So what's some of the best success stories that you've had? Like, do you have any favorite success stories with trail training over the last couple of years?
Oh, that's a good question. We've had like a lot of really like cool testimonials from our just vet guys. It's really cool to see the variety of people. Like we've actually had a fair amount of people from Australia, New Zealand, had a guy from Iceland, some guy racing the British races, GPs over there. Some guy hit us up about the Baja 1000, and like training for that. And then another guy hit us up from Minnesota training for the Iron Dog, which is a 2,600 mile snowmobile race in Alaska.
Wow.
And I was like up front with the guy, like, listen, I have no idea anything about this. And then I started looking into it and researching, and the same thing as Baja. Like, dude, fitness is pretty general for the most part. Like if you can get fit and then you fuel appropriately, like with carbs and nutrition, that's huge. But yeah, it's really cool to see, like, we get testimonials from a vet guy that like maybe they couldn't stop being injured, or they just hurt. We actually had a really cool testimonial from Oscar at Cowie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was really cool. He actually let us share it on Instagram, but essentially he was just like, I couldn't figure out why my bed was hurting me. Like I wake up every morning, my bed's hurting me. And then I quickly realized, like, it's my body, and just simply staying fit, healthy, and active, like, helps you to just, like, have less aches and pains, and so you're not, like, going to the doctor, getting a prescription, or, like, going to the chiropractor trying to fix it, Like, I really do think using your body helps you just feel better as a person. And it's cool that we've seen that with the athletes we've trained. They recognize that. That's
awesome. And what about in the pro ranks? So you're also doing some work with some of the pro guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. John was training with Jason Anderson for the last couple of years. Right now we don't really know what. I think he's racing the first 3 for sure, but Marsh Banks and like Grant Harlan was one of our guys. John Short and Henry Miller and like Luca Marsalisi, Lorenzo Lacrucio. We've been fortunate to have a lot of really good amateur kids, or not amateur, pro guys. And it's fun to just kind of help provide some clarity. I think for some of those guys, I notice you kind of play the role of like psychiatrist. Like you're talking them off a ledge, like, listen, it's okay to take the day off, or like, hey, you're fine, take it easy. We're talking about bike setup or the mental side or nutrition. For me, it's cool just because the things I've acquired over the years, like I can keep talking about things I'm passionate about. I enjoy that, and just helping people.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
How much time are you spending? So like, is it almost like a desk job for you in a way? Like you spend a lot of hours behind the computer, scheduling calls, it's very much a very involved process.
Dude, I spend a lot of time on a computer. I really do. Yeah, I mean, especially because it's mainly online. I would say probably 99% of troll training is online. So there's a lot of time spent on a computer, but I've gotten pretty organized with how I go about things, and you're running a business too, so yeah, it's been a learning curve.
It's a lot, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Probably a lot more than people would think.
I pretty much carry my laptop around with me everywhere. And
run the track.
Yeah, let's not forget about Millville.
I know, we got to get there. We'll get there. So how does it look like? So you basically, can you go to, is it trolltraining.com?
Yeah.
Just trolltraining.com. Just want to see how the old site looks. So someone just needs to log on to trolltraining.com. And so you basically can just apply and do everything through the website.
Yep. Yeah, so our bronze that's kind of more of your general fitness program for motocross.
Yep.
Oh. And then we have cycling and running programs. Racecraft is just the dirt bike only program. So that's essentially hey, off the dirt bike I'm good, but I want you to provide a structure for me. Every time I show up to the track, I'm doing sprints, drills, motos, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the silver program is basically the full deal. On, off the bike, nutrition, supplements, recommendations. You're talking to me, every week. So that's kind of the gist of it.
That's awesome. Trolltraining.com. Yeah, it's super cool, and it's such a great idea and resource for people in the sport because, it's such a serious thing to do. I think we take it for granted because we've grown up around it our whole life. But when I met my wife, she was just like, what the fuck is this? Why would you, this is not smart to do this thing, it's not something she ever came from. And you talk about the injuries that you've had and the broken bones and 5 broken collarbones, it's just whoa, this is a lot,
Well, that's what's interesting is I think motocross, supercross, we're mainly gearheads. We're talking about suspension, engine, chassis parts, torque specs, the flywheel was great, and I've always really been passionate. Same with John, he's co-owner of this. Is we've always really been passionate about the human body and human performance and how that translates. And the cool thing about moto is it's not one way or the other. It's kind of 50-50 in that regard.
Yeah.
So.
And so much more than other sports in other motorsports.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you think about marathon, for example. That's 100% you. You're not coasting down a hill or anything, Whereas maybe in NASCAR F1, it's probably
80-20.
Yeah,
in the other way.
Right. Yeah. So,
what do you think about the mental side of it? Did you and Joe just have a bit of a different gear mentally that you could just dig a little more than most people?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of who we surrounded ourselves with a little bit. I think when we started training with OSHA, it was just kind of a 2-hour bike ride. That's what we do today, 2 40-minute motos. That's just what we got to do. And I didn't really think about it much in my career because I always just wanted to train really hard because I did want to do the best that I could do, whether it's winning or podiums. But when I retired, it was funny because I have that kind of you were talking about earlier, that mindset that carries over. And for me, when I was training for Boston, I had a couple 80-mile weeks that I did running, and I would just be all right, I got to do a 22-mile run today. And my wife's I like how you just roll out the door and do it. And I'm well, I don't know. I want to accomplish my goal, and that means doing a 22-mile run today, So I think, my perspective on just getting out the door and training is I just do it. I try not to think about it too much.
And that's something that has been just cultivated over years of doing it.
Yeah, because I don't even think about it. It's almost like muscle memory, maybe 15 years ago, I was I should really do that bike ride after. Nah, I'm tired. I'm going to skip it, Whereas it's I think after forcing yourself for years and years to do things that maybe you don't want to do, I feel maybe it changes your brain.
And where do you go in those, when you're actually in the 22-mile run? Where are you mentally there?
Well, that's the thing with you could probably relate to this. Once you start working out, then you're good. The biggest thing is getting out the door. I mean, once you get going, the endorphins are flowing, you're eating sugar, you're in your element,
Yeah.
So like, yeah, once you get out, it's good. And that's back to the fueling part. Like when I'm doing the long runs, like, dude, you can run farther or like work out harder than you think if you're fueling appropriately, but like if you were to do that 22-mile run fasted, like, dude, you're in for a world of hurt.
And so you don't think that you're any better than the average person at like dealing with the pain when you're in those runs or anything like that? You just purely think that it's like once you start doing it, you just get into that flow state.
Yeah, I don't really view myself like I'm not special in any regard. Like I just think even with racing dirt bikes, I think I just kept doing it over and over till it became a little easier and became a habit. Or like running wise, like just kept running until I had acquired enough miles to where I could go at a certain pace. I mean, yeah, sure. Maybe I was somewhat genetically gifted with my VO2 or whatever, maybe that helped, but I think it was more the repetition and the consistency than anything.
I think that at least this is one way that I think about success in a way. And I think about this from like, I would say like in a business sense or in the running of the podcast sense, like I'm always walking out the door. Like that, I ain't like I did back out. I was supposed to go to Redbud this weekend for a Blue Crew event, and I said no, I'm fucking not doing it.
Yeah,
I was too cooked. But there is definitely an element in doing this where I will do whatever it takes, 24 hours a day, and it doesn't feel like work. And it's like I've just mentally made the decision. Like it's not even a decision to make. It's just at this point so autonomous that, like today I got a phone call. Hey, this guest is coming up tomorrow. They can only do it tomorrow. Can you do it at 6 p.m.? Yes. I had plans.
Yeah.
Yes, I will do. That's what it takes. And I think that over time, like especially, it's been like 7 years now. But it's like over time in my head, I kind of have this formula where it's like success is basically like, how much can you put on your back and on your shoulders, and then how far can you walk in that direction? And if there's a point where you're just like, fuck it, I need to drop the load, I'm done, I can't do it, like that's where you stop. And that's where success stops for you. And that can be how many 2-hour bike rides and 40-minute motos, and like, so those are the things. It's like that's what you're putting on your back as the load that you're carrying. And then how far can you walk? And how far you can walk would be like how many years or how many months, how many days, how far in time can you walk forward with that load on your shoulders?
That's a phenomenal analogy.
You think?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Yeah, it's hard to top that. Yeah. No, I think, you nailed it.
and I mean, but it's across everything in life, right? Like, it's relationships. Like, how long can you keep giving to your wife in terms of like your energy and your time and your love and your care and your kids? Like, it's not just work or working out. It's like, it's all of those things. It's like every responsibility that you could possibly have in your life that makes it better. And then how long can you do that
and
for?
I think, that kind of brings up time management a little bit. That's something I've really had to, like, when my job was just riding dirt bikes, like time management was not really an issue. Whereas now, like, I have 2 kids and working 2 jobs, training for a marathon, like time management is a real priority. And back to your point, like if you want to have a successful business or a successful podcast or be a successful racer, like you just have to get things done. Like one way or the other, you can't make excuses. You just have to get it done. You can't be like, oh, like I'm too tired to respond to these emails, or like I'm too tired to ride today, or like wash my filter and do my oil. Like if you want to achieve the goal, you just do it. So.
Well, and you can. Like there are emails that are left unread in my inbox right now and people I haven't got back to, but it's like that's stuff you're not putting on your shoulders and not carrying, and then that's not going towards the end result, So it's like you get what you want out of life. Like the arrow of time is moving forward with or without you, and it's like if you don't take those things on, then they're not going to be part of the success that you accumulate along the way.
I like it.
The time management thing is hard though, because there's also an infinite amount of shit that you could do and a finite amount of time. So I feel like it's probably one of my biggest struggles is like letting go of the things that I can't do.
Yeah. So I feel like I could relate to this more recently because like in the morning I've started making like lists of like to-do lists. Like I use the reminders of the notes app on the phone, and I've just grown that to where I have folders of different things and Spring Creek and troll training and, different folders trying to separate the two.
You have like buckets.
Yeah, and it's like, because I feel like sometimes if I don't have that to-do list of like, oh, I got to email this person, do a phone call here, check in here, it doesn't quite get done as efficient as possible, and especially if you want to get a certain amount of done before lunch, it's just like it's important for me to like have that list and like go through it in the morning. All right, what needs to be accomplished, So, yeah, it's a lot, but yeah, it's then you throw kids in the mix. God bless, dude.
Dude, yeah, that's one thing.
Sleep deprivation.
I always say I just can't relate to any of my friends that have kids. I'm like, don't take any of my advice, people, because I don't know what I'm talking about. In your world, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, dude, and I have 2 under 2 now. Our little boy Everett's 2, and then Ray is 7 months, and it's like, it's kind of one of those things where like, when I was racing, like Zacho had kids and like Chad Reed had kids, but it wasn't like that common. And then now having kids, I'm like, dude, how did they do it? It's next level. And it's something like just you don't even know what's going on in life until you experience it. And then you're like, oh, wow, that's like it's kind of a big deal.
That's a whole thing.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's one of those, because Wes is one of my best mates. And he's just got, literally 2.
He's got 2 now.
Yeah. And wow. 2 like at 2, but like 2 and... or like 2.5 or 3 and 1.5 or 2 or whatever. But yeah, it's like a small gap and they're young. And I'm just like, hey, bro, just don't take my advice on anything. Because like whatever I say probably doesn't mean shit in the world, in the reality that you live in. Yeah. And I'm not going to pretend to know. Yeah,
it's a whole thing for sure. But yeah, just trial and error. That's all it is. It's another thing that's just trial and error.
Got a good book recommendation on time management if you want to read a good book. It's called 4,000 Weeks. I think it's like time management for mortal or time and how to use it. But yeah, 4,000 weeks.
4,000 weeks. Okay.
That's all we have in life. The average lifespan is 4,000 weeks.
Wow.
Would you have guessed more or less?
I feel like I would have guessed more. I feel like it's kind of depressing when you're only 4,000. Like, what? That's it?
Yeah. There was a really good chapter on FOMO, and he's like, you need to switch FOMO with JOYMO. Like the joy of missing out, because you should. It's basically like this concept that when you say yes to something, you're saying no to a million other things. And so it's like, if you aren't all in on the things that you say yes to and like really like when you have 4,000 weeks and in saying yes to something, you've said no to everything else, that makes the yes that you just said so crucially important, whether it's doing a run, whether it's sitting in, just doing some family down, like just be all in the things that you've said yes to, no matter how minuscule or seemingly unimportant, because the fact that you've said no to all these other things makes it important.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So it's pretty cool book.
Yeah.
If you want to dive into that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might remember Dr. Steve Andrews from episode 219. He's an orthopedic surgeon who's treated a lot of the riders that we've had on the show. Steve's company, Rig, is a sports medicine brand launching with 2 game-changing products, a pre-sport performance cream called Heat and a post-sport recovery gel called Cool. Think of Heat as an advanced muscle rub designed to improve muscle performance, endurance, and stamina. Cool, on the other hand, is a recovery gel that assists post-exercise recovery and relieves mild joint inflammation. Both products are ARTG listed, meaning that their benefits are backed by evidence, not hype. Many of us are familiar with the testing that goes into supplements that we eat and drink, but we often overlook the products that are applied to our skin. Transdermal absorption is when substances can pass through the skin, And that's why Rig has gone the extra mile, becoming one of the first brands in Australia to offer Informed Sports certified topical creams customized for athletes. You already know how important it is to be mindful of what you put into your body. Now it's time to be just as mindful of what you're applying to your skin. Steve and the team are committed to delivering quality products that aren't only for athletes, but anyone wanting to level up their performance and recovery. Check them out at rig.com.au and you can follow them on socials at rig.oz as well. And of course, when using Rig products, always read the label and follow the directions before use. Actually have this on my shoulder right now.
So let's get on to Millville. How is it being the owner operator of one of the best motocross tracks in the world?
Yeah, I'm like a glorified assistant. Yeah, it's been quite a process. I mean, the transition, it was much more overwhelming than troll training, to be honest, because troll training was like kind of my thing, and like John and I, like we were passionate about that. Whereas with Spring Creek, I've kind of acquired, it's like an acquired taste. I've kind of acquired a passion for it. You know, I'm going on, I guess, let's see, 23, 24. So yeah, my third year as a promoter. So just learning the ins and outs of the business, and it's a lot, dude. It's a lot. And then like this past winter, Jeremy was home doing he would do the VIP things with Star on the weekends, but then like during the week he was in the office at Millville, and I was like trying to take him through stuff, and he's just like you could tell it's like it's gonna take. In the 3 years, I've learned maybe 90% of the business, whereas I think Dermot's gonna take him like 10 years to learn 50% of the business.
Well, I dropped out in 7th grade.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, and there's a lot of things actually with running a business with troll training that I've applied to Spring Creek. Like I built the Spring Creek website, and I run the ticketing page, and learning about insurance now, and the medics, and like flaggers, staff, payroll. I've gotten a crash course in like basically how to prep a track. Like I spent a ton of time on a dozer, skid steer tractor. Like I was going back and forth with like Tim Ritchie, like, hey, what tractor did you get? How many horsepower do you have? This sort of thing, because like for many years, like Millville wasn't necessarily ripped deep enough, you know, and so we couldn't get enough water in the soil, and it would be really hard pack. Unless we got like a ton of rain, like Millville had a really hard base. Yeah. And then I was kind of like the catalyst for like pushing my dad to be like, hey, we need a better tractor. Like, look at how Redbud's doing things. And that was the thing, is like both Jeremy and I, like we've traveled to all these races for 15 years. So we know how they prep Washougal and Unadilla and Redbud. And being a promoter, having grown up at Millville, like or being a child that grew up at Millville, I kind of always was like looking at these tracks from a promoter's lens, not just a racer. Because my parents would be like, hey, what do you think about the position of this flag stand or the bleachers or whatever it was, you know? So yeah, I've kind of had that unique perspective that I've been able to apply to Spring Creek. And it's just like anything. My parents are getting older, you know, and they're chomping at the bit, I think, for us to come back and help them run the business, because it's a lot. It is a lot to run a Pro National.
And it's not just the Pro National that you guys run. Like, there's a bunch of races there.
Yeah, I mean, we have 15 or 16 events throughout the year. They do 12, I think 11 or 12. It's called the FXR Spring Creek Super Series. Yep. So that's been going for, I want to say, like 26 years or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a full thing, you know. 600 to 800 average racers, and then we have a banquet at the end of the year, and give away prizes and bikes and stuff like that. And so my parents have really done a great job. Like, I don't know for sure, but I feel like they have to be one of the first in the country to like start a series with a banquet and everything, because I mean you're going on almost like 30 years where they've had that going. But yeah, it's basically from April to October, you're trying to have an event every weekend, like whether it's a race
because you're doing 16 events, but you've got a whole winter that you can't do any.
Right.
So it's not 16 events. It's like
yeah. So whether it's like OHV, people will rent out the weekend for their Rangers or whatever, or Hare Scrambles, the Pro National, Regionals, Super Series, the local races. Yeah, there's a lot going on. So I mean, yeah, because like to get the Pulp Ride Day, and I think Steve was kind of caught off guard by like how tough it was to find a date, because like, dude, we're slammed, you know. But then it's really nice to have the winter, because there is so much happening in the office, you know, like logistically and sponsorships and organizing insurance and race dates, that it's nice to have the winter off to kind of regroup.
Yeah, because if you'd probably would run 32 events a year if you could.
Yeah.
And that doesn't give you much time to actually improve. It doesn't give you time to work on the business when you've got to work in the business so much.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for me as a racer, like we get caught up in the track, right? Like, track prep and this jump, or you need to rip it more or take the ruts away or whatever it is. And like now, having like been a promoter, like, dude, the track is the last thing on my mind. Like I'm worried about so many other things, and I don't even own the business. Like I've told my parents just like, please keep working as long as you can, because I don't want to take on this whole thing. Like it's a lot. But yeah, like just making sure, staff is showing up on the weekends. We have enough flaggers, enough people to water the track, who's dropping the gates, who's sign up registration, the gate girls, wristbands, making sure the billboards and everything's up to date, like insurance, the medics. Even like porta potties. I had to make maps with where the porta potty location is, and like apparently 90 porta potties for the Pro National is not enough. We probably need like 150.
No.
I didn't know about that till like last year.
What's that cost? What do you spend on porta potties?
Take a guess. What do you think?
$105,000.
Porta potties?
Yeah.
No, it's like
not that much.
Like 15 grand.
15 grand.
Yeah.
Still a lot of money on porta potties.
Yeah, but like there it goes back to like the expenses to run a Pro National, like our catering bill to feed. You got to think like Tuesday through Sunday. You got to feed your staff. Like how are they going to eat when they're working all day long? It's a $20,000 catering bill just for food. And so there's a lot of hidden fees when it comes to a Pro National and getting it to run security. We probably have almost 100 security people on the property, just security. That's not including your staff that's helping run the event from the gate to the track to the sign-up shed.
What would the total cost be of running a national for you guys, do you think?
Oh, yeah, you're getting probably close to $500,000. Yeah, maybe not quite that much. Yeah, but you got to think it's that we pay the purse, so that's $100,000 right off the top. Sanctioning fee, I think it varies. I don't know for sure, 50, 60 grand. So you're 160 grand in just to get a national going.
Just to have the national just to sign the paperwork that says you can have a national at your track is 160 grand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then insurance and like staff payroll, catering, porta potties. Dude, there's just so many things, and you literally like don't. Because I tried to like sit my parents down and be like, all right, what am I taking on here? What am I looking for? And it's like you almost have to just go through it to learn, what to do. Yeah, so it's fun though. Like at the end of the day, Millville is like the Martins. That's our home.
Literally, you live on the track.
Yeah, it's our home. So it's kind of like it's become the family legacy, if you will. Yeah. And I feel like obligated to keep it growing and try and make it better. My parents did a phenomenal job. They bought it in '87, and so for almost 37 years, they've ran this thing, and I think they've had a national for. It's been a national since '83, I want to say.
And it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is just such a beautiful place. It's an iconic track, and you guys have done an amazing job for that whole time.
Appreciate it.
It's a special place.
Mm-hmm.
When I had the Davy Coombs pod and then the Bud Feldkamp thing, and I kind of like got caught in the middle of that whole back and forward. I actually called you for some advice about it, and it was very insightful and very helpful. And there was kind of this narrative that was being permeated through the industry that the Coombs rip everyone off and that it's like not profitable and these tracks can't even afford to run events. But you guys are able to make it a profitable thing for you, right?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. I'd like to think they're $1 million events. But you have to run it the right way. I think my parents have done well with having, we open up the gates on Wednesday and you have camping, Thursday practice, amateurs, Friday race for the amateurs, Saturday is your pro day, and then we do like a Sunday pro track challenge where everybody gets to ride Mount Martin. It's the only time all year where amateurs can race Mount Martin. But I think having it be like a week-long event essentially has made it really profitable just from a camping perspective and everything. Vending, I've increased the vendors a lot since I started taking that over. But yeah, at the end of the day, we have 16 events at Spring Creek, right? And I view it as it's a privilege to run a pro national, and I see what the Coombs have done with the series and allowing us to be a part of their series. There's a lot that they take on. There's a lot that they manage, TV package and sponsorship, and kind of going back to the sponsorship thing, on that particular day, if I'm not allowed to run a banner for a local sponsor, that's okay, because they're letting us come in and do this huge event, and I think now you're seeing the merger of Supercross and Motocross, ticket sales are up, TV numbers are up, the TV package is great, that's bringing in non-endemic sponsors, and it's just making the sport bigger, and I think it's a win-win all around, and I think I for one appreciate what the Coombs are doing for sure. I go back to I'll never forget coming off Second Moto Redbud, and Carrie Coombs is out there giving me a bottle of water, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now? She's out there handing bottles of water to the riders. That's pretty cool. She cares about the sport.
Is it disappointing, or has it been disappointing to see the amount of shit that they've got over the last maybe 12 months, from people that you just have a very unique perspective because you're so behind the curtain when it comes to running those events, and you have a perspective that 10 other people have. But there's opinions of thousands of people that don't have that perspective.
Yeah, I think it's just you have to get in there and once you understand all the pieces that are getting pulled together, and all the stuff that make those events happen, it goes beyond just track prep. There's so many more layers to that onion, if you will. And yeah, I think the Coombs really are passionate about the sport, and they're trying to grow it, for sure. And I think I see what Feld has done with Supercross, and I think it's only helped us, our motocross nationals. Sure, it would be nice if we didn't pay as much of a sanctioning fee or whatever, but that's the cost to pay to play, essentially.
Yeah. And so with all that being said, is there stuff you think that they could do better to make it better and more profitable, or it's working pretty well how it should work?
Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, that surprises me, how much it varies from track to track and what they do, I'm talking ticket prices, VIP prices, general admission is different, camping prices are different. So Supercross, they don't have a child ticket, right? You just buy a ticket. Or in motocross, we have a child ticket, and that price varies from track to track. Some tracks have open practice, some have race Thursday, Friday. Some do a combine. Some are doing the women's race this year. I think there's 6 women's stuff. So there's a lot of variation from track to track. Southwick, for example, can't have camping because they don't have enough space. Thunder Valley on Friday, we have almost 1,500 amateurs that come through on Friday. Thunder Valley just has practice for I think they had 50 people practicing on Friday. So in my mind, that's just a massive missed opportunity. Hangtown, they're run by the Dirt Diggers, which is just a club. So they come in once a year, more or less. So that's tough because I think with Millville, us having 16 events throughout the year, you're regularly running your flaggers through a process, your start guy, your sign-up crew, your gate crew. You're constantly getting kind of run through a process where some of those other tracks don't have a lot of events, and so you're not, fine-tuning that process. But yeah, just going back to what they could do better, it's tough to say. Maybe, yeah, I don't really know what to say.
But and it's sort of, from what you're saying, it sounds like it's probably more on the other promoters to just maximize what they're doing, because every business is like that, right? I know in my business, if I could just take my hand, if I just could stop. Just press pause right now on everything. The bill stopped. The deliverables stopped. What I had to do stopped, and I could just spend 3 months working on my business. I could make more money when I press play again. I could translate it into different languages. I could there's all this different shit that I could do, but it's that's purely on me, and that's on organization. That's on time. That's on limitations of time. It's on processes. So it sounds like it's probably just more of a fact of like these other nationals streamlining their own processes and like maximize, like getting the most blood out of the stone that they can on any given weekend.
Yeah, and I think for my mom and dad, I think they just found out early on, like, because it's kind of fun to hear them talk about like the national in '88 and '89. Like, I think my dad literally was like, man, it was just a one-day event. There was no camping. And he's like, we need to get people in here and make it camping, So it was like ideas like that he kind of evolved over time.
And then it becomes a culture.
Yeah. And now you're hearing like people are like getting married at Millville and, they had their kid at Millville, or like there's been weddings at Millville. Yeah, it's like all over the place. So it's kind of become like now you're in the second, third generation of like families coming down and enjoying the, essentially the party.
What's the best Millville race you've ever seen?
Like raced? Or what do you think?
Nah, what's the one you haven't raced? What's the best race you've ever watched at Millville?
Probably like 2023 was huge. I feel like our crowd was massive. So that would have been the first year I retired. Besides that, like Ricky's year when he lapped the field, that was freaking pretty badass. I think it was 06. Yeah. That was pretty cool. That definitely probably goes down in the memory as like in motocross history as one of the most memorable races, like Ricky Carmichael lapping the field. And then the next year he came back and did 6 outdoors that year, and Millville was his last one. So that was pretty memorable. But then, fast forwarding like, more than a decade, like the 2023 National was huge. There was a lot of people there that year.
What would have the attendance been? Would you know the number?
Over 20.
Over 20,000 on the Saturday.
Yeah, it's funny because like you look at a stadium and you're like 60,000 people, but like 20,000 people goes a long way at an outdoor national. It really does, because essentially, I don't know how many acreage of camping we had, So Millville is 500 acres, and there's a good chunk of that is just fields. Like we're really blessed with like flat level fields for camping, and it's just like I could show you a drone shot, just like a sea of campers.
Is it on the internet anywhere?
No, it's in my Google Drive.
Oh. Yeah. We'll put it up and we'll send it to me and we'll put it up in this.
Yeah, it's just a sea of campers. It's pretty cool.
And so, like 20,000, well, probably not 20,000 campers, but thousands and thousands of campers.
Yeah.
It's such a sick event, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in that little valley.
Yeah, and there's like definitely an atmosphere. And man, Mount Martin, it's hard to walk up there with a camera. I can tell you right now. Like, it is so steep.
We should do some intervals up it.
Oh, I need to come there and ride. Maybe I should do the pulp day. When is it?
Yeah, no, we don't have it this year, but I don't think he's doing one at all this year. But
I need to come and.
I got a 350 for you if you want to come.
What is it? A gas or yeah? So 350 is the bike for you.
Yeah. I got a 450 when I retired, and I was just like, no. I had a few oh shit moments, and the 350 is like perfect because it's like a modded 250, but you don't have to do anything to it. So it's so much more enjoyable to ride.
Yeah, and that's purely the thing, right? Is it's just like it feels safer, it feels a lot easier to ride, a lot less consequential, a lot more forgiving.
Yeah.
Team 350. Church of 350.
Yeah, so come on out to Millville. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, I need to come and do it. So I was going to ask one more thing about the event and the facility. Yeah, maybe it'll pop back in my head. The 2023 race, though, Sexton and Tomac, I actually watched it at lunch the other day. Scott just put on races at lunch. Yeah. And it was insane, dude, the level that those guys
You know what
were
was another good one, actually, now I'm thinking about it, is my brother in Ferrandis. Do you remember that year?
What year was that?
I want to say it was maybe 2020.
Can you put in YouTube 2020 Millville National?
Yeah, because Jeremy was on Geico that year.
YouTube? Go to YouTube. Yeah. And then 2020 Millville, Millville. Yeah, motocross. There you go.
Poor Diddy.
Oh, poor Diddy. Dude, he's a... Let's go... Full mode, go down, Scroll down. We're looking for the 250 class. Maybe type in
It'd probably
250.
be under highlights, maybe, if you just, I don't know.
All right, let's see if we can. Which moto? Oh, Alex Martin, Moto 2
Look at
GoPro. Go back one. Go back. We'll watch those highlights that was on the last one. Go scroll up.
Yeah.
Second
2020
video.
highlights. There you go.
And then we'll scroll through. Oh, yeah, no, this one will do. Just leave it here. So you were racing this one as well?
Yeah, look at that. Dude, we got pole position that day. Got the whole shot.
Oh, this was your JGR year.
P1 in practice. Dude, it was like 37 degrees in the morning for practice.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
It was in September.
Oh, yeah, look at the fall leaves. See, this, I personally, I don't know whether you share this opinion, but the hard pack base Millville is better for racing.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to think about that because I feel like it varies so much. Like the hard pack base, it's only like that if it doesn't get enough water. But there's a lot of times throughout the year where it's like actually really soft. You know, like the conditions vary so much.
Oh, I remember that. Look how hard he OJ'd that finish line. So that was Moto 1.
Oh, look at that. I beat little bro.
Ooh. And dude, Jett Lawrence, little baby Jett.
Yeah. But yeah.
You followed him for a lot of that moto, I'm assuming.
Dude, I actually battled with Jett a lot this summer.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Who would have known?
Yeah, it turned out well for him. Oh, AC could get a whole shot.
But yeah, there is a certain element of like when the track's not as ruddy, I think it provides better racing.
I'm just thinking of, I think it was 14, Stu and Kennard. And they were just like...
That was amazing.
They were just everywhere, dude. Like they could go anywhere they wanted on the racetrack. And I look at, last year, you would see... in that 2023 race, it's like a lot more ruts, a lot more like kind of locked in to... the scoop tire is a big thing nowadays, and it's like it almost just doesn't give the guys enough movement around the track.
The scoop tire, you're saying, or
like the track prep ends up making it a lot more slot car. So it's just pick a line, commit to a line, and I'm sure people go either way on that, but just remembering that moto. Oh, dude, AC with the moto win.
Yeah.
All right. Beat Baggett, Marv, Zacho. Oh, this was the year that he almost won the title.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was him and Zacho, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. So yeah, this will be the battle that we're talking about. Oh, Shane goes down. Dude, Star Bikes, all at the front.
I'm wondering if I took out Justin Cooper this moto.
Is it payback for Minneapolis?
Well, no, I just on accident, honestly, but I feel like I battle a lot with Jay Coop these years.
Isn't he having a season?
Oh my God, it's crazy.
Bro, so good.
Yeah.
For a little dude too.
Yeah, I didn't expect that on the 450.
Yeah, man, he's like unreal. How good did the Geico bikes look with the red plate?
Yeah, it was sharp.
Isn't it wild that team went away?
I can't believe it.
Right?
I mean, yeah, that was between that and JGR. It was just like that, 2 teams in 1 year.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, they didn't show too much, but they had a hell of a battle in this moto. I mean, it was unbelievable. The intensity they had, both of them.
How pissed was Jer after that? He would have been bummed. 1-1.
Yeah.
Pause it for us. That's got to add such a level of, like, that's got to be a different feeling. Like, it's not your home track. It's your track at your home. It's so, everyone's got a home track, but you had a home track.
Yeah. Yeah, the house is overlooking the whoops.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I went there, just how, there's literally, so for people that have never seen the house, there's the Martin family home, there's a small backyard, then there's Spring Creek, and then there's the end of the first whoop section.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah, like you could throw a rock from like the deck on the house and hit the whoops. It's maybe 100 yards or something. So it's close. It's right there. It's pretty hard to not be a dirt bike racer when you grow up with that and you're literally in your living room window.
Yeah, 100%. So it had to like hit different, and you'd want to win there more than or podium there more than any other race, or was it not?
I don't know. I think that's a good question. I don't feel like I ever went in there like I wanted to win that one so bad. Obviously I did want to win, but it wasn't like that was the priority of the season is to win at Millville. I did get second there twice, I want to say, and I did podium I think 5 years, 16, 17, 18, 19. I think I podiumed 5 years in a row actually there, which is like kind of a crazy stat if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even I had some good stats like Thunder Valley. I podiumed 3 years in a row. Redbud, and I always go back to I feel like that's not that impressive when you look at we're always talking about like Jett and Deegan and all those guys. But for me, being like a 7-year privateer guy, to find that success later in my career was just yeah, sick. We made it.
Yeah, and you're one of the few guys that's actually kind of had that success story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm basically just sucking ass for 6 or 7 years and then finally figured it out.
Say it like that. I'm gonna get a toilet
Yeah.
and then we'll kick back. We'll pick up right at the privateer
Okay.
thing. We covered some good stuff, but there's a lot more there. The privateer. How close were you to giving up in those 7 years?
Oh, okay. So it's kind of interesting. I feel like I thought about retirement as early as 2013.
3 years before your breakout year.
Yeah. I remember 2013 was rough because I had a really good year with 1110, and it was kind of my breakout year in 2011. So it would have been the third year of my career. And then I remember in 2012, I actually got sponsored by Fly. I got a paycheck. I got 30 grand. I think I actually made almost 50K all in that year, because up until, the first probably 3 years of my career, I was lucky to make 30K all in for the whole year. And then in 13, I had dislocated my wrist at club and missed all of Supercross, came back to outdoors, and just the club. So 1110 Mods had gotten a Yamaha deal, and it's basically Sander had that Honda figured out. That thing was good. And then we went to the Yamaha deal, and it was a carburetor, and it was shit. And yeah, between the dislocated wrist and the bike not being good, it was just a really rough summer in 2013, and I for sure thought about retiring then. But then, honestly, Rock River, Christina Denny, they just kind of saved my career. 14 was a rebuilding year, and then 15 was really the year that was kind of the platform that kind of catapulted me to have success the rest of my career. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I feel like I've thought about retiring quite a bit over the years before I actually did retire.
Yeah, but that's a final door, I think you probably got the sense that you wouldn't go back if you, when and if you retired.
Yeah, I feel like once you're out, it's hard to get back in, for sure.
So another thing that I find interesting to get your perspective on, you rode Club MX, you rode Star Yamaha, 2 really good 250s. What's the difference?
Well, I never rode I never raced the Club 250. I did ride it a little bit. But at that time, it wasn't even in comparison. The Star bike was just head and shoulders. I do think that the Club bikes come a long way. I think I think even last year when my brother was on it, I think it was pretty good. I think engine wise, Jamie from Twisted had the engine in a pretty good spot. I think chassis wise, they were lacking a little bit. And I think this year it's only gotten better. It's actually kind of amazing how good Club's gotten, from 2021, 2020, when they were still figuring things out, and they've got a lot of money behind them too.
Just because the facility itself generates a lot of money.
That, and they've gotten some really good sponsors that they brought in, they're good that way. But the Star bike is just, it's hard to argue that. Just they have access to factory parts, factory transmissions and races. Just all kinds of stuff that helps a lot.
It's funny. So I rode the amateur bike. So I rode the amateur race bike, not the race bike. That was fully off limits. Mm-hmm. But even the amateur bike was just ridiculous, bro. Absolutely insane. And the boys are yeah, the pro bike's definitely better.
Yeah.
Was that the craziest thing to ride that bike?
Well, I will say, like, so my bike in 2015 with Rock River, they rented an engine from Yamaha, and it was pretty solid. So if you remember, in 2014, Ferrandis was on, like, the Yamaha.
Yep.
And they basically kind of gave, like, that engine to me in 15. And it was good. I mean, I won my first national, got a couple podiums in Supercross, and was, like, top 3, top 5 a lot in summer of 2015. And then the next year on the Star Bike, it was just like, dude, things were easy. Like, things were just coming to me easier. Like, I remember literally, besides winning Glen Helen, like, I qualified in practice. There was, like, random stuff that would happen where I'm like, this is too easy. Like, at Lakewood, Thunder Valley, first practice, I qualified 4 seconds faster than anybody. And I'm like, dude, you know how many times I've rode my dick off to qualify 20th or whatever, and like now I'm 4 seconds faster than everybody? It was just stuff like that that bike made it so much easier.
And what was it about the bike?
I think at that time, like, they just the engine was so strong. You know, there's a lot of torque and a lot of power, and then they were constantly just playing with stuff. I don't know if they were doing dual injectors at that time, but just Brad was really good with ignition stuff. They really had the ignition fine-tuned. So, and then I think they rented out a place in Colorado and did a lot of dynoing at altitude. And so it was especially noticeable, like, at altitude.
Right.
So
it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I couldn't believe it the other day. The mechanics are just like, have you done just like a drag run on the thing yet? I was like, no. And like, just go at the back and just ride all the way down and just bang the gears from the Supercross track. And I was like, and just shifting gears.
Yeah.
And the thing was just gone. Unbelievable. And then the secondary, there was, because we were filming it, like, I wasn't riding, I was filming, and it was pretty hard, honestly, to just jump on a bike. I've never ridden at the goat farm. The track was not good. It was afternoon, the ruts were hard, they'd watered the hard packed ruts, like, it was worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But even there was some sections that I did get to ride okay, and after I got off the bike, I was like, fuck, I was like throwing it into that turn for my level, and felt like amazing, like the turning and the contact that you had at the front wheel. Like, it was pretty wild.
Yeah, and it's not even just the engine too. Like, one of the big things for me was the races. I'd never ran races until I went to Star in 16. You know, just because I simply didn't have access to them. And that just, like, I think we ran, like, I forget if it was 15 or 30 kicked out, and it was just like the handling was unbelievable. How planted and stable it made the bike. And that's actually something we did try. I did try on TLD, and it really didn't help a whole lot compared to, like, the way it did help on the Star Bike, but it helped a lot on the Suzuki. The Suzuki was really responded well to races.
Yeah. I've heard that bike's quite unstable at speed.
Yeah, it's really
in stock,
twitchy and short, you know?
Yeah.
Like, axle to pivot length is something I was pretty well aware of, you know, when I was on the Suzuki, for sure. Like, longer was better, essentially. Yeah.
Well, dude, I gotta let you get out of here. I don't want you to miss your flight, especially being how far that you came to do this. But, bro, awesome. I wanted to do it for so long, and it was as good as I thought it would be. And I would love to do it again at some point. Maybe, do you have plans to come back to California, or?
I mean, yeah, we'll see. I mean, for sure, A1.
Yeah.
We'll be back here. But, yeah, we can figure something out, because I had a blast. This was fun.
It's cool, isn't it? It's a good time.
No, it was a blast, yeah. It's honestly really cool to see, because I remember you from 2016, the Red Bull film and crew, and, like, yeah, you've kind of built a brand. I mean, you're doing it. You're building the company.
No, I appreciate it.
Pretty cool.
That was such a fun time. Like, yeah, we went to the sand track that you rode. You rode at Millville after the national. Yeah, that was like.
Do you remember we went to, like, the track in town, and, like, I did sprints on the track? Were you there for that, or was it just West? No.
Did I have to leave a day early?
Maybe you did.
I think I did.
Yeah, because I was doing, like, sprints on the track.
And, you know, I never even saw the edit. That was one of those. It was for, like, a European Red Bull show. So that was one of those ones where we literally, and you were both sponsored by Rockstar at the time.
Yeah.
And they just didn't care.
Yeah, well, I was on YouTube. It was actually.
Oh, it's on YouTube?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, the
I've
whole
never
thing
even seen it.
It's called, like, the Martin Brothers or something, but it's,
Oh, I want to watch it.
Yeah.
That would bring back, you know, when you just get, like, the memories come
back to you,
Yeah.
that would just fully re-job.
A lot of nostalgia.
Yeah. But it was an awesome time, and I've just ever since. I mean, I was a fan of you guys kind of before that, but after that, and meeting your parents, and just kind of getting to be around the facility, it definitely made me even more a fan of you and your brother. So
Appreciate it. Yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
dude, I'm keen. I need to get there. But yeah, this was awesome. Trolltraining.com for any of you sketchy amateurs out there that want to improve your health and fitness. And the other thing is like, yes, you're going to improve. Let's say someone signs up for troll training, you're going to improve your fitness on your bike, and on racing's going to be safer and more enjoyable. But life is long, and you're probably going to be way healthier into your 70s and 80s if you spend your time in your younger physical years like actually taking an interest in your health. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a massive side benefit to training in the right way.
Arguably more important than being faster on a dirt bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was awesome, bro. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.